Hey, welcome back, everybody. Getting ready to share the stream here. I was kind of trying to do all behind the scenes shit. Brian will be joining us shortly, so no, we're not down a man. He's got uncooperative children tonight, so he's following the NyQuil advice. Takes about 15 minutes for it to kick in, and then he'll join us. CP,
Hi,
how we doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I don't sound like this, so this is probably way better now.
Hey, did you know that there's audio issues?
I'm gonna stab the next person who comments on that.
You can never get away with it, dude. The pinned comments are absolutely useless. I figured that out. I'm like, hey, I know what I screwed up as. Here's the actual answer. 85 comments later. Did you notice that the two characters from Chucky last night aren't the characters that you said that they...
Gage isn't in Dream Child. Yeah, I know, but he's the kid who... Fucking, I know.
Uncle Sean.
Yo,
How we doing?
I'm doing good. I spent a lot of time prepping for this video, watching all the behind the scenes special features, reading some books, so I am ready.
Reading books?
Yeah, I learned how to read so I could read the books to prep for this video. So I threw in all of that excessive work so I can engage Brian in intellectually stimulating discussion of the original Friday the 13th.
Every single kill?
Oh,
every single
nice.
kill. Every single kill? Leave him alone till he gets here. All right, a couple super chats really quick. They were even before we went going. For the AutopStream crew and CP's Vanilla Coke Fund, thoughts on Henry Cavill coming back to Superman Man of Steel? For me, is a near perfect movie. We're not going to get too off topic, guys, but we'll see. I'm happy as hell that Henry Cavill's coming back, but I don't know what the movie is going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be Man of Steel 2 or they're doing the Marvel Daredevil thing. Any different thoughts from you two?
Just as long as he has a mustache, that's all I want.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I like Henry Cavill. Him being back, it's cool.
Awesome. And there was one more, I believe.
And cheers. Vanilla Coke.
There you
Cherry
go.
vanilla, technically.
Michael worked better being human or supernatural. I would say human, personally. But we'll get into all the reasons why.
Wait, what? Michael what?
Myers better as human or supernatural?
Oh, human.
There we go. All right, guys. So if you do not
him.
know what this is the debrief for what's typically the 31 on 31. This year it was 33 since we had two little bonus movies. Just a little special time over back in the big three world. So all four of us do our own separate videos where we rank usually 31 movies, different franchises, and then we like to get together afterwards. We average out all of the scores and talk about what becomes the AutopStream group average and have some healthy, fun debates along the way.
And well, first of all, technically, if you're only counting Freddy, Michael, and Jason, we have 31 films because Friday 5 does not have Jason and Halloween 3 does not have Michael. So 31. We still got the 31.
There we got it. You saved the day.
And 2, shout out to Robert Alex and, all right, look at that, John Connor, the math men. Holy shit, did they save a ton of time. And
yeah, typically me and CP would divide the duties of doing the math averages and stuff. And Robert Alex, the past couple of streams, has been awesome and just dropped in the comment section like, hey, I did all the averages. Here it is. And at the same time that he dropped his, John Connor messaged CP and went way in depth and gave us the exact same list that Robert gave, but also went into a whole bunch of really cool nerdy stuff that I also have some graphics for later on in the show, like which movies we agreed the most on, which ones we disagreed the most on, which movies changed the most since 2018. So we've got some extra little nuggets here this time, thanks to this gentleman.
The show business host in me was like, oh my God, I have an erection. This is incredible. All these stats.
You sent it to me, and I didn't take it seriously. I was like, okay, cool. And then I finally looked at it last night, and I was like, this feels like it took hours. There was like color graphs and shit. I was like, whoa, this is awesome.
Pie charts. And
yeah. All right. A couple more. Daniel Skinner, to share my least favorites of the 33 on 31. It'll be Freddy's Dead, Jason Takes a Boat to Vancouver, and Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2. Okay. A couple of those are popular picks for the bottom for sure. Can we all agree that Hobo from Ends looks more like Michael than Danny DeVito from Kills? We can agree on that.
That's the Umbrella Man from 2018. People forget that.
Yeah, I know. All right. So with that being said, guys, we're going to kick this off. So this is obviously all 4 of our scores compiled together and then averaged out. And so I'm so relieved at the fact that I don't have to argue why this should have been 33. 33 for the group, thank the Lord, is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Me and Sean agreed that it was the worst. CP and Brian didn't quite agree, but they were close enough to give me my way. So Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, part 6 in the Nightmare franchise. What I often say is my least favorite movie ever made. It's not the worst movie ever made, but it's the one that just angers me the most. Every time I hear about it, talk about it, see clips of it, I just makes my testicles hurt. So you have this era in Nightmare on Elm Street to where they really started to lean into the comedy. They're like, hey, it worked in Dream Warriors. Let's just quadruple down on that. And this movie essentially turned into a Looney Tunes cartoon. There's actual like Bugs Bunny or like Wile E. Coyote bits where he pushes the little spikes out. You've got a Wizard of Oz reference. They bring in, he's got a secret daughter. The only part of the movie that I try my best to appreciate is that Alice Cooper shows up for a few minutes, but even then I'm like, dude, why this one?
He's not even a musician, Alice Cooper, neither. It's just Alice Cooper, the actor, because that's what we know him as.
Hey, man, his performance in Prince of Darkness was Oscar worthy.
Excuse me. I stand corrected.
But nonetheless, that was easily the worst movie on this list. I think any list that is a part of, it's going to be 33, 31, 50, whatever it is for me. Now, I think was it 32 for you in 2018 as well, CP, or was it a little bit higher? It almost became 33, and that's where you were saying you might.
No, this year it almost became 33 because talking to you for the last 4 years, I was like, you might have a point. But then I was just like, rewatching Busta Rhymes. I was like, nope. The booyah! That alone, that was worth it. Nope.
Oh man.
But I mean, even on the special features, they talk about, we just had this idea of like, what if it was a Looney Tunes cartoon? Like they said that. That's not just the audience.
Oh.
Robert Englund uses that phrase, and they're like, there's a couple great sight gags in there, and not that they're defending it, but they're kind of excited about these little bits that they put in there, and it's like, you guys went way off the path. You lost what actually this franchise is about, and the mythology. They're just rewriting things, inventing new things, and it just
evil fish. Work. Evil fish is what powers Freddy.
And when you have Freddy Krueger sitting there playing video games to kill someone, it's just it feels like a Saturday Night Live parody. It doesn't at all play like a scary movie.
Well, that's the only like pubic hair sized argument I have for it being above Halloween Resurrection is the entire movie is just comedy. It there's nothing that contradicts the film itself. Like at least.
So the whole thing sucks instead of just Busta Rhymes scenes.
Well, Michael Myers, like he killed Laurie Strode, and then Busta Rhymes suddenly has the secret. He must have had the Contra code on how to kick Michael Myers' ass. Question, Cody.
Yes.
Which is more lost, Freddy's Dead or the most recent season of Chucky?
Freddy's Dead, easily.
Really?
Because at least with Chucky, we've had a bit of a buffer of everything since 2004, putting us on edge. Like, is it the time? Are we serious today? Okay, we're not serious today. So I mean, I would liken that to like if we had 17 years of or 16 years of Freddy's Dead followed by Freddy's Revenge, and then just back and forth or something like that.
Okay.
So not much else to say about this one. There's very few defenders of it. Those that do defend it are just like, hey, I just have fun with it for what it is, and they're typically not very hardcore Freddy fans. Those are the ones that tend to be like, what did you do?
Yeah, not like I'm gonna fight you guys about it. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I'm glad there
well.
wasn't an outlier. There wasn't like a Lomax vote in this one. Like, wait a minute, who the fuck put it at 12? Right. Moving on to 32. We have Halloween Resurrection. Probably the most popular pick for worst Halloween film that I have seen. This was CP's dead last. Sean had it just above him. Brian just above him. And I guess I was the most forgiving on it at 30. Yeah,
So Cody, why do you love Halloween Resurrection?
well, you see, there's just something about... I can't put that there until Brian's in. Oh, hey, look at
The
that.
commentary
Just in
about
time.
popular culture and what we do to entertain ourselves in this movie was so thematically rich. That's why Halloween Resurrection is my personal favorite Halloween film, and you guys should all love it too, right, Brian?
Look, if you didn't see the clear steps that were placed throughout the narrative leading up to the karate finale, then you're not a Halloween fan. You're just a Michael Myers fan.
I mean,
Yeah, Halloween Resurrection. Look, when I first saw this movie, when did it come out? 2002. So I was 12, and I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh, "That's kind of funny. Someone's actually kicking his ass for once." And I was like, "Oh, good. We don't have to worry about Laurie Strode anymore." And so there's some weird part of me that's like in a dark room down in my soul somewhere that's like, "Remember, you enjoyed it the first time, bitch."
yeah.
And so, yeah, Halloween Resurrection. It's not a movie that I would ever say is good, but it's not my least favorite Halloween movie because I can at least still have a mild bit of enjoyment out of how absolute train wreck it is. It's just like, who signed off on these ideas? Brian, welcome.
Hi, Brian.
Hi. You right? Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Thoughts on Halloween Resurrection?
Bollocks.
More than one sentence.
I just bollocks. I'll be perfectly honest. I've talked about these films more than I care to talk about, to be honest.
All right, so
I did well.
Terrifier 2. Thoughts?
Halloween Resurrection is just it's like, what else can we say? I mean, we've said it till we're blue in the face for the past 5 years. It's a train wreck. The opening, in which you kill off the main character that you did such a good job with in the previous movie.
What
like-
a waste. They do that so many times in this franchise. We're like, forget the last thing. Fuck it.
Yeah.
The opening of the movie destroying H2O offends me more than the Busta Rhymes stuff. I'll go on record and say that.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It's more forgivable.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt the franchise, or it embarrasses the franchise. It doesn't hurt the mythology.
The Busta Rhymes stuff and the house stuff, that is a movie. That is a separate, like you could make a movie out of that. Fine, whatever. Does it make a great movie? Not necessarily, but it doesn't. It's not offensive in the way that taking your main star and just treating her like an afterthought in what is essentially a glorified pre-credit sequence. It's like, this is the big bill, we're coming back, Laurie's actually back, you put her in all the marketing and everything, and then it's like, we're going to kill her, now let's get on with the film. That's like a big kind of up yours to...
And especially because the whole last movie, it crescendos to victory.
Yeah.
The character has victory, the audience feels that, and they stole that from the audience. They removed the lead character's dignity and victory, and then make her into a murderer who's in a loony bin, and then gets duped by Michael Myers and dies. Like, why on earth would you assassinate this beloved character? Who? How? Why?
Hey, she stole a kiss too, by the way. But
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar too. She did an interview not too long ago where she was kind of explaining what had happened. So whenever John Carpenter was originally supposed to do the movie. It was kind of her thing where she was having lunch with John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, and she's like, "Guys, it's going to be 20 years. Like, let's do something. Let's capitalize on this." And so they got the ball rolling. Eventually, John Carpenter left, and she's like, "Well, okay, I'll stay attached as long as I get to kill this bitch." And so that was the whole drive. She's like, "I want to kill him." And you could feel that kind of revenge in the Halloween trilogy that we just got, where she's like, "No, I'm going to do everything in this new trilogy. I get my way." So she's like, "I'm going to kill Michael Myers. That's why I'm here." and they kept putting it off and putting it off, and then eventually she found out through the grapevine that they're not allowed to kill Michael Myers because of a legal contract with the Akkads.
The
And
Akkad.
she's like, so why the hell am I here? And they're like, we can't do it. And she's like, that was the whole fucking point. And so she came up with the idea of, okay, fine, whatever. We have to do it. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to let me kill him in this movie, but it's just going to be, we think that we killed him. So I'll get my victory this time, and then you have to kill me off in the next movie, and I'm done. I'm not coming back. And so that was kind of her compromise of
For
like,
16 years.
yeah. She's like, okay, well, you fucked it all up, so this is how we're going to do it. And she at least allowed us to have the head canon of, okay, it stops after H2O, which is my preferred little timeline.
That's her fault then. It's just like you screwed over the fans. Now, if you made that deal, it's like making a deal with the devil. It's just like I'm gonna have my cake. I'm gonna let the fans have their cake, but then they're not gonna eat it. We're actually gonna take it away from them and go, see ya, bitch. It's just that's essentially what they did. It's like if you made that deal, if you knew that was going to happen, then you know the kind of impact it was going to have on the fan base. So you shouldn't have made the deal. You should have just said, it ended for me at Halloween 2. The fans can keep that. That still remains gold as far as they're concerned. I'm not going to...
I think at that point, the dotted lines were already signed on. So that I think she was already signed onto the film.
Yeah.
It was already... the ball was rolling at that point.
And in light of recent behind-the-scenes news, I kind of think the Akkads are kind of scummy, judging by how Danielle Harris and Scout Taylor,
Hollywood types, scummy.
Yeah.
A couple quick super chats and then we'll move on. Pool Stroke, P.S. Happy birthday to Danny DeVito. Happy birthday, Danny. Brian versus CP round 2. Hey, he's got a tag team partner.
More like round 5 at the minute.
Yes, round 2 of October, November. Never made it to one of these while it was live before. Glad to be here. Glad you could make it. All right. Moving on to 31. We have Jason takes a long ass boat ride to Vancouver.
Sean, what the?
Well, yeah, I know. Sean had a couple here. Sean had a couple. So we have 32 for me. Brian and CP agreed, and then Sean was much more forgiving on it. So later on in the show, I got something that I'll show you guys. But yeah, Sean had a contender for an award that I'm giving out because he had a couple. Yeah, this one, and the next movie, he was significantly more forgiving than the rest of us. So Jason Takes Manhattan. I'll kick it over to Sean because I don't think it's a movie you like necessarily, but what was more redeemable about it than it was for us?
The Friday the 13th movies are the ones that I actually grew up watching late at night, TBS, TNT. So there's a certain just nostalgia and fun. I find all of them more consumable. They're all dumb. It started from a dumb place, so I'm very forgiving of the dumbness. So when you have a movie that just kind of goes, yeah, I mean, we're making a dumb movie about him going to New York. Let's have like a guy's head get punched off and someone killed by a guitar. It just does a bunch of stupid stuff, and that's entertaining to me. That's what I signed up for. It's called Jason Takes Manhattan. So,
wish you would have took it a little sooner.
Yeah, I signed up for Jason Taking Manhattan because that's what I was sold.
Right, but maybe the boat was called Manhattan.
The Manhattan, yeah.
Does the movie tell us the name of the ship that they take?
No.
There you go. The ship's probably called Manhattan. Movie's redeemed.
Loophole.
You guys have no
Redeemed?
reasons at all. Totally. Best picture of the year.
Just when I thought you couldn't say anything more stupid, you pull this. And totally redeem yourself.
I actually had a map in my video. Crystal Lake, as we were taught, is in the middle of New Jersey. And
I love the detail of that.
when they paddle to Manhattan, it's from southeast, which would be where I am, which is Long Island, not New Jersey. So I don't know, maybe they took a really long upside down sea to get to the Manhattan
a scenic route.
Yeah, but that's just one of the many
Sean,
things.
the name of the boat is Lazarus. You have no ground. You're falling.
I'm good at number 34 now. I feel betrayed by the mythology.
34.
Well, now we got to redo this whole fucking list. So pause, everybody. Oh man, yeah, not a whole lot to add. This is my least favorite Friday the 13th movie. It doesn't give you the premise that it sells you on. The only moment I like is the boxing kill. A lot of really weird shit about turning back into a kid with toxic sludge, and I'll say it a couple times in the video. I respect the hell out of the guy and his legacy, but I'm not that enamored with the Kane Hodder Jason. Never have been.
Right.
Halloween 5, number 30. Sean taking it all the way to the top again. We got 31 for me. This is, in fact, my least favorite Halloween. Always has been. Brian and CP agreeing again. What the hell's going on? This is not what I signed up for. And then Sean with 21.
Classic.
With 21. Now that
Masterpiece, 10 out of 10.
yes,
Bait and switch.
yeah.
Bait
What
and switch.
Sean
It's
called
coming.
it.
It's coming.
What Sean called it in his video was the traditional Halloween experience. So I want all of you Halloween fans that have hated me since 2018 to now divert your spears this direction. Because that is absolutely not the traditional Halloween experience.
So far, I think Sean's picking up all the awards tonight.
Hey, you guys didn't warn me that I had some hot takes.
Oh man. Okay.
Sean,
so-
you did reading and you did all that extra work into
I
this?
didn't learn math. I didn't know. I didn't pay attention.
the behind the scenes deleted scenes and everything were really good in the Halloween 5 Blu-ray. So
They actually are really interesting. All the reworkings, the Dr. Death intro and everything.
oh yeah.
The alternative movies that this could have and should have been.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
to defend Sean, my Halloween kills ranking has a lot to do with things that nobody can see. So I'm with you, Sean. I understand what you're talking about. Special
Yeah.
features.
For me, as somebody that has grown to be much more of a fan of Halloween 4 throughout the years, Halloween 5 is one of the 4 or 5 times in this franchise where they're like, oh, we made an awesome sequel. Moving on. So yeah, you have the ending of the 4th one destroyed. You have the character of Jamie Lloyd reverted to being a mute for most of the movie. You kill off Rachel to give us Tina. That's like throwing out a steak and grabbing a old beef jerky out of the fucking bottom of your pantry. Anyway,
Yeah, but beef jerky's dehydrated, so old beef jerky is
so am
more
I when I watch this
dehydrated.
movie. Yeah.
I'll say this, like, when there was only the 2 Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween movies, by the end of Halloween 4, Rachel was easily, for me, a much better character than Laurie Strode. I much preferred to follow her as a final girl than I did Laurie. She's got more character, she's got more stuff going on, and so when they do what they do to her in Halloween 5, I was out. Like I say, especially when if you are going to take her out, you better damn well put someone in there who fills that void. And instead, they gave us Tina. So I was gone.
And going back to Hollywood producers being pretty scummy, making Jamie Lloyd a mute essentially saves them money. She's a glorified extra in that movie. Just food for thought on the business end. Dicks.
I always crack up at the first scene where it shows her wake up and she's like, yeah. From that moment on, I'm like, what did they do? Didn't the director of Halloween 5 get kicked off The Omen 4? I believe so. And that's scary.
Wow.
Wow. He was doing a shot and he was acting like he was Kubrick, doing about 50 takes.
Again.
The money was just going and the producer just said, "No, you're out." Bye.
I want to see all 50 takes.
I don't even want to see 1. I remember The Omen 4. Ain't been that long. All right, 29. We have Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. I guess I was the more forgiving one on this one. So I had it at 24. Again, man, what the hell? We got Brian and CP agreeing.
Wow.
Sean was a little less forgiving on it. You guys, man, I didn't even realize that. You planned some shit.
I wanna make note that Brian said that 5 was exactly the same as 1. So 4 years later, I can declare victory from that debate in 2018.
No, you can't.
We'll see.
Excuse me. But Cody, what did you rank higher than Friday the 13th in your ranking?
Friday the 13th, Part 5, New Beginning.
There you go.
Boom.
Victory.
Look, I was right there with you in 2018. I was like, that's kind of a crazy argument. Well, no, I love Brian, but wow. When I watched these movies, which I had not watched them since 2018, I don't believe. Some of them I have, but for the most part, none of them. I sat down to watch Friday the 13th, 1980, not expecting it to change much. And I'll save a lot of my thoughts on that for not too long, but later. And did not like it at all. And then I watched A New Beginning expecting me to like it less based off of what I experienced with the first film. And I'm like, this is really stupid. But I'm kind of enjoying how stupid it is. Like, it feels like it knows the movie it is, where Friday the 13th is trying to be something that it's not. So it's not a movie I would recommend to many people, but if I want like a really ridiculous, fun Friday the 13th, I kind of get it with this one. So,
It's like you
it's like a parody.
Ultimately, you're comparing the difference between being pissed on the face or crapped on the face. I don't want either one of them.
Those experiences you've had?
Thankfully not, but it's
Only
just,
one.
It just
Not at the same time.
Basically, I've no wish to revisit either one. But if I have to, I get more fun out of A New Beginning.
Yeah. Well, it has more to do. I'm not saying this is a good movie. I'm just saying that Friday the 13th, 1980 is a shittier movie. But anyway.
Well, the problem we'll get there when we get there.
Without comparing the two, as the Friday the 13th guy, at least one of them in this group.
Yeah, Sean did worse than I did, actually. Yeah. So I mean, fuck, go to him. Well, what do the special features tell you in A New Beginning?
The producers wanted to keep printing money, so they decided to make a sequel despite ending the franchise. So, like, what do we come up with? What if this random guy at the beginning that didn't want chocolate set up this whole situation, and then his dad's mad? What? It's like the craziest Scooby-Doo ending. Where the first 10 times I watched it, I was like, who? Like, I had to read the Wikipedia page to be like, who is it? I don't understand what I'm watching right now.
Yeah.
Outside of that little reveal, I mean, let's be honest. Is it that different than a traditional Friday the 13th movie? Take away the scene where the face explodes and shows the guy underneath. If that was just Jason that got impaled by that thing, is it really that different?
Thematic resonance in this film. It wasn't saying anything that spoke to me.
Right.
Okay, Brian.
Right. Well, no. So...
Friday the 13th film says anything that speaks to me.
You know what it says?
That's fair. That's a fair. I mean, Sean has said it, and I certainly agree with it too. The Friday the 13th are potato chips. Like, there's, you're not getting Ridley Scott stuff here. I'm pretty
now
sure.
Now that you mention it, I would like to see Ridley Scott's Friday the 13th.
Prometheus 3, Crystal Lake
is incredible.
I would actually like to see some fucking Ridley Scott cinematography, but
God. You'll get it. It's A24 now.
So
CP, your wheezing laugh could cure depression. Just letting you know.
Oh, thanks, Amanda.
His code name's Muttley.
The difference between, because we're constantly comparing 5 and 1. 1, the third act, you develop Betsy Palmer. You develop her character.
When? The last 5 minutes?
In the third act.
Which is exactly the same as part 5.
Here's her
No.
development.
Wait a minute. No.
You're getting ahead. You're getting ahead.
Hold on.
I'm an old friend
The
of the
only
Christies.
thing we
Development
see
over.
of ambulance driver is it's
We
Jason.
see him twice before he shows up at the end.
His face all angry because his chocolate bar loving son was murdered.
We're not comparing them.
Dude, that's a full-on criticism that I accept. But the point is, you can apply the exact same flipping criticism to the first one. There's no setup there.
No.
She just appears at the end of the film and then gives you this Scooby-Doo backstory.
No, the green Jeep is a bit of a
See, it's one of the great mysteries. They have all this intrigue surrounding the Jeep, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'll praise that one intensely when we get there.
Let's table this.
There's no sort of listen. I'm not saying it's a brick house. It's paper thin. I'm not arguing that. But the fact that the green Jeep was the Christies in the first movie, you're led to believe, the dude that is reopening the camp is behind this. And then when she rolls up and says, "Oh, hi, I'm a friend of the Christies," you think she's there to save Alice. And then you get this story where she's there to help, and then slowly but surely she's like, actually,
Not there yet.
well, but the comparison is in 5, it's Jason falls off a thing, spikes. Oh no, it's that guy whose face I saw, I think, once. That's it. There's no sort of anything.
Right.
And in 1980, it's man hands.
Tom Savini's hand.
Yeah, this is not, the defense just doesn't work as far as I'm concerned. They're both really crap films that aren't developed very well, really badly written, really badly acted, and it's just like the things I come to
Kevin
a franchise
Bacon.
like that
Kevin
for.
Bacon.
The things I come to Friday the 13th for, there's more of it in part 5, and that's all there is to it.
Brian likes nudity.
Yeah, a lot more of it.
He doesn't like nudity.
Speaking of Brian liking nudity, 28, we have Jason X. This was Brian's 33 both
Good
years.
for you,
What?
Brian. Good
Me
for
and
you.
Sean, way on another end of the earth. We're up in orbit. We're we got not quite agreeing, but they're close. We got CP down there at 31. I'm going to kick this one over to Sean because Sean always speaks so lovingly about this movie.
2 questions for you, Brian. How dare you, and what gives you the right? With that said, this is an unbelievably dumb movie. It knows it's a dumb movie, and that's why I have fun with it. As I said with some of the with Jason Takes Manhattan, I've never taken this series seriously. They're dumb, and this is the dumbest of the bunch. More importantly, I saw this in the theater with a packed house of my most obnoxious friends and a bunch of obnoxious strangers. And if you haven't watched this with an audience of obnoxious people, that's on you for not watching the movie properly. You're sitting in your house by yourself, looking for the thematic resonance. Wrong experience. Just rent out a theater, pay hundreds of dollars, and watch it with a bunch of obnoxious people, and you'll understand my placement better.
Do you know hundreds of years in the future, Jason X will hold a very, very dear record in film history? It was the first major motion picture shot in all digital.
They did talk about that on the special feature.
Oh, when did this movie come out? Was it 2001? 2002. Okay, so again, I was 12. So yeah, I was a dumb teenager. I watched this. I didn't watch it in a packed house. I had the mindset of a group of obnoxious, immature people just within myself. So I always had fun with this one. Again, just like with The New Beginning, this is not something I'm going to sit and die on a hill for, but I think it knows the movie that it is.
I will die for my.
Well, if you're dying with me, I'll hold the beer. So yeah.
Jeff,
it's a movie that knows what it is. Like, of all of the franchises where it's like, oh, it was fine until it went to space. That was like the kiss of death. This is the one where I'm like, that actually makes sense to send that fucking character into space, like, and just let him go loose. It's got some of the best kills in the franchise. The characters are dumb as hell. Some, yeah. There's at least 2 or 3 of them that are really good here. I like the corkscrew kill, of course, the freeze kill. I might be thinking of another one that I'm
yeah. If you're doing this sleeping bag, that's a
derivative. I know.
Yeah.
Derivative, but still a classic.
Yes.
Cover band.
So it's dated as all hell. I mean, you look at some of the CG, and it's like, oh, that's definitely the first couple of years of the 2000s there. But
it was dated when it came out. That film did not look good even when it came out.
Oh yeah, it looked like a sci-fi made for TV, like Sci-Fi Network. Excuse me.
It looked like it looked like an episode of Lex, that terrible sci-fi show from the early. Exactly. That's the face.
What?
That's the appropriate face. No one's seen Lex because it's crap, and yet it ran for quite a few seasons. I didn't watch it, but it's like whenever you saw production stills from it or you saw little clips on the TV, it just reminded me of Jason X.
Can we just mourn fans of the big slashers? Because in 2002 you got Jason X and Halloween Resurrection. like that hurts, just in general.
And
meanwhile, Freddy's like, I'll just wait on Freddy.
Freddy's like,
you guys can hold the camp.
As a final thought, like, I totally get why people would have this at the bottom. Totally fair. To me, it's a very watchable bad movie. It's a classic so bad it's good situation for me. Totally get why for a lot of people you'd go, that's just awful and embarrassing.
And David Cronenberg.
Right, exactly. There's credibility here.
Just randomly.
Get behind the camera, man, not in front of it. What the fuck?
It's just the most random. If you were to do a top 10 list of most random cameos in movies ever, that's taking the number one spot.
I forgot about he was in it, and I was like, isn't that David Cronenberg? Then I watched the special features.
He was a associate executive producer. He showed up. He's like, you want to be in a scene? Oh, man. Moving on to number 27. We have, speaking of embarrassment, Brian. What the hell?
Whoa.
Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. We have me at 29, Sean way lower, which is surprising. I thought I'd be the most offended. You got CP at 27. Brian, apparently, a bit of a fan of this one.
Troublemaker. Is there a problem here, patron? This movie sucks eggs.
Okay, I'm going to start with Brian because I think you've defended this one a couple of times. So what's so good about this movie?
It's not so much that what's so good about it. It's more what's so crap about everything beneath it.
How dare you, sir?
I've pretty much gone on record quite a few times that majority of these films are not my bag. There's usually like a classic within each one of these franchises, and then the rest are kind of like, yeah, I can take or leave that. For me, I just feel like where Part 5 falls down in a real big way is the stuff that I feel like a lot of fans are coming to it for, which is the creative kills. And I totally agree with that. I feel like Part 4 really gets the kills, really gets the wacky kind of nightmare sequences, but it's all wrapped in a story that doesn't really make a lot of sense at times. Character motivations are just really random as anything, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth because of that. Whereas this is the flip side of that film. It has more of the stuff I look for in any movie, which is the character stuff, a better story. But I would imagine if I was a Freddy fan and I'm coming for those wacky dreams and the weird kills and stuff, then I would probably feel the way that most fans do. For me, the story is more intriguing, going into the history of like where Freddy comes from, this, that, and the other. I just wish that somebody had a bit more visual kind of bite.
Brown
yeah.
Yeah, I love the first kill, the Dan kill, the motorcycle one. That's actually one of my favorites in the franchise, especially if you look at some of the footage of the uncut version. It's less goofy and more just like really gnarly. Everything beyond that, I am not a fan of this one. It's a precursor to Freddy's Dead flavored Freddy, to where it's all comedy, no darkness. I don't even like the makeup effects on it. He just looks like bubblegum. You've got I like Alice as a character, so her coming back is cool, following her again, but I don't think she's as interesting in this one because she doesn't have kind of that arc of her triumphing over evil, triumphing over all of where her friends failed in the fourth film. And the concept of the Dream Child is an interesting concept that I just didn't like the execution on it whatsoever. So that's my thoughts on it. Carry it over to CP.
I feel like horror movies, when they introduce a baby or go to space, they're out of ideas, and that kind of is what this is. It's like you said, it's the segue between 4 and 6, and it's just the middle steps down, and a little out there. Am I misremembering The Nun? That's 4, isn't it?
She's
That's
in
5.
3.
That's
5. That's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way as well. It's just, well, I mean, Brian, I agree with you. The bottom third, at least, of this list is rough. Is certainly rough. And everybody at home, be sure and rent the movie called Split Second. It was a 1992 film, and Brian sat me down and made me think I was going to watch something incredible.
I bought it for you.
I appreciate it.
I gifted you that movie.
And I gave you Manhunter in return. And who won that deal?
This guy right here.
Yeah, inside joke. I apologize. It just kind of lost me. I don't. Anytime you talk about Freddy and kids, and just
What are you doing?
Just
What are you doing?
yeah. Don't no. Just nightmares, please. Just nightmares. And sex. I don't want to think of Freddy. You know, innuendo is one thing.
Move on. Just
Yeah,
go.
please tap me out.
Alrighty, so the post Dream Warriors Nightmare films, I just felt like they were making up mythology as they went along, which I guess is the job of a writer. But I mean, it just it was
4 and 5. They literally were writing as they were shooting.
Right.
Which
Which
4
they talk
like,
about
that
on
worked
the
out well.
special
Let's try it
features.
again.
But they undo whatever they set up in the previous one as if none of it matters, and so when you get to the end, you're like, right, but you're just going to find a ridiculous reason to undo this. And I didn't even like the vibe of them, the aesthetic. I just don't find them pleasant, and some of the complexity of having a little bit more lore and story is what makes them less watchable to me than like a straightforward Jason once again goes to Camp Crystal Lake to kill the counselors who keep doing drugs in each other.
Yeah.
So that's for me why this one is lower.
Sean said what my brain was trying to say without all that sex talk. So exactly what he said. Like just a dude that's in your nightmares. That's good. That's all you need. Just rinse, repeat, rewash. Don't be bringing nuns and babies and what are you doing? Stop.
Well, one thing that did not rinse and repeat was Friday the 13th, The New Blood, which was 26. Not too much disagreement on this one, although CP, the Friday the 13th simp, was a little bit more forgiving on it. So this one,
And I don't like this movie.
Jason versus Carrie. Look, apparently it's impossible. It's destroyed. It's never going to happen. If we could ever get the uncut version of this movie, I could see it going up at least 2 or 3 slots, maybe even just in the Friday the 13th franchise, because there's a good setup for quite a few kills. I think this is the best performance by Kane Hodder. I like the look of his Jason. And it's certainly, I mean, it's not as appealing to me as Jason going to space or body switching, but it's in that little era where they're just like, so what's a weird fucking idea we can have in this one? Carrie? Yeah, we'll do Carrie. Continuing on the tradition of Friday the 13th, just trying to ape a bunch of other franchises and make a movie out of it. But yeah, what you do get, though, is a movie that was strangely just neutered to death by the MPAA, and so there's nothing noteworthy about the kills, the gore, anything else for me.
I love that they had the star power of Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's and couldn't sell tickets off of it. like
You talk some
wow. Yeah, you let him have lines? What is that Stallone quote? Or when I don't remember. Forget it. He was talking about Dolph Lundgren. You gave him lines? Why did you do that?
Sean.
I mean, just really unpleasant characters. The doctor in particular, just like, what is going on here? And when you're like main girl, when you're doing a character that's like Carrie, that is very emotionally troubled, but you're not actually exploring that. It's just the character like freaking out the whole movie. There's nothing to connect to because there's not an interesting idea behind it. And so it's just her freaking out, selfish doctor guy, and then generic cannon fodder teenagers to get killed. But this is what I have nostalgia for because it's one of the ones I watched on TNT and TBS late at night in the early 90s.
Yet another Friday the 13th movie that just forgets about how dead bodies go over time, and her dead father is just unfazed after all those years. Didn't learn their lesson after part 2.
On the special features, they actually show footage. They had an alternate take. They filmed it where they had like a decayed body.
I would have liked that. Give me that.
And so if you look on the special features, they have images of it, but they went, instead of a body that's been underwater for 10 years decaying, what if he's clean shaven, pretty face, nice complexion. He's not even wrinkly from being underwater. He's just good to go.
Yeah, no prune hands or anything.
You know, the thing I always think about when I watch this movie is the most random thing ever. When the dad comes out of the river at the end, or the lake at the end, and grabs the guy, I always think it's Robert Carradine. I'm like, what the fuck is he in this movie? And that's what I always think about every single time.
I have that book. That has an accompanying documentary, Sean. That's very long.
When I say special features, I mean that documentary.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Brian, anything to add to New Blood?
I don't know, Cody. I think we should just leave these to it. I think they need to get a room together or something.
But we've been agreeing so much, Brian. What are you talking about?
This is true.
Right there.
This is true.
There's a picture in the book that you said you had.
Yeah.
See,
I also have a storage unit, so I.
Well, as soon as this ends, you can go to your storage unit, pull out the book, and you can look up what he would have looked like, then rewatch the movie, and it'll probably move up like 3-4 spots on your list.
He also has a memory that's shot to hell.
Yeah. Also true.
Nothing to add to that, but Sean Sheridan, in answer to your question, I will say that Friday the 13th is the worst out of those two.
Sean,
Friday the 13th
Sean, really, just why don't you just say I love Brian? You could have just done that instead.
Brian,
waste of money.
Submit. All right, coming on to 25, we have Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, and Brian was the most forgiving. I was barely behind him, and then Sean and CP were much less forgiving on this one. If Rudy's still in the chat, he just got done doing a whole video
Oh,
comparing.
hey,
the
Rudy.
cuts. So
Rudy, go be
sure.
a father. What the fuck?
He's stuck in a hospital, dude. He got nothing but a.
Oh, he's in
chair
a
and
hospital
stool.
still. Okay. All
I'm
right.
pretty
All right.
sure.
All right. All right. All right. All right.
Keep watching.
Oh, is the baby born?
Yes, yesterday.
Oh, excellent! I hadn't seen that. So
Congrats to
congrats,
Rudy.
Rudy.
I
That's
believe
awesome.
Maximilian is the name of the young little chap.
Shark
So, yeah.
bait.
Halloween Curse of Michael Myers. Let's ask this. We'll go around and say this. What do you prefer, assuming you've seen both, the theatrical cut or the producer's cut? Me personally, I'm not really that fond of either one of them, but I always thought the theatrical cut had a little bit more style to the look of it. I don't care for the story in either one, but that one I think has some better kills, and both of them leave off at a really weird place where it's like, what the fuck does that mean? And then they never answer that. So that's my pick. Brian, have you seen both?
I have, but they've both just kind of blended into one. I couldn't tell you what was from what. It's like
Producer's cut. It's got a bit more of the cult stuff.
Yeah.
Different kills. Jamie gets killed with a silencer in bed instead of pushed into the little corn thresher. And then at the end, you get the thing where Loomis looks and he's got the mark of thorn. And then it ends.
And it's revealed that Michael is the father of the baby and thus raped his niece.
Yeah,
That's a
that too.
great plot point.
That's the producer's cut, right?
Producer's
Yes.
cut, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That's
gonna
why.
go with a theatrical then. I think I'm gonna go with a theatrical.
Yeah. I had a bit, and it was. You really need to kind of know sports to understand the bit, but
I'm out.
what they're saying is kind of. I'm curious to know if the bit played to people, because you just need to watch it. It's low on my list, so you don't have to go very far, but I
was the
wish
bit?
I. So it's a baseball manager and an umpire arguing, and the baseball manager's saying, you got to give me a shot, and I have titles over it saying Halloween 6 producers trying to get their cutout, and then the umpire I have as normal horror fans. And the umpire says, you just had your shot, you get your shot, you already had it, and it goes, but why can't we have our shot? And the umpire goes, because that makes it fucking worse.
I did see it, but I couldn't remember what it was. Oh, man. Sean, which one do you prefer? Rape pro or rape against? Incest pro or incest against?
I'm pro incest, obviously.
Everybody clip that now, quick.
Need to make sure I give you some good material. I don't know. That plot point is so unpleasant. It's such a terrible idea that in the Taking Shape book, not special featured book, no one takes credit for coming up with that idea. Everyone is like, I don't know, I think they did. No one will own the fact that they came up with that terrible idea.
Oh, so it's Salo.
It's more coherent. It makes more sense as a version. Like you get to the third act of the theatrical cut, and it's like, what are these tubes? And like, why is he killing people? What's going on here? But I mean, you get to the end of the producer's cut, and the big climax is Paul Rudd mispronouncing Samhain. Like, okay,
You know
cool.
how
He
many
put rocks on the
people-
ground.
Do you know how many people completely dove into my ass about my Halloween 2 review when I said it the exact same way that Donald Pleasant said it? I'm like, he talks about Sam Hain, and they're like, this fucking idiot doesn't know. I'm like, that's what they said in the movie.
Rudy, it's really bad luck to talk about incest like that soon after you've just given birth. Just, I'm a pro at bad mojo, so dark joke, sir.
Keeping with the classic transitions, Bad Mojo, Halloween 2, 2009, and this is where I get
Sean.
my Lomax moment. So I have it at 12. The closest person is 12 away with Willis Screedia there at 24, Brian Lomax at 27, and Sean really not a fan of this one.
Wow.
So, look, I'll just get this out of the way right now.
Have you been drinking, sir?
I had about a half a beer, but the dog had a lot.
All right, so Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 has always been one of the few, right? One of the few that I get a lot of crap for. Like I get it. It's one of those movies where if you don't like it for XYZ, I totally get it. But I think I see a different movie than a lot of people. There's things that I will absolutely agree on with everybody. I'm not a fan of the version of Loomis they went for. I think that the idea is interesting, but it makes him extremely unpleasant and unlikable, and you got to have some likability to Loomis. Otherwise, what the hell are we doing here? The White Horse stuff can go to hell. You have Laurie Strode in this movie that is a very unlikable person. I think that's by design, but if you don't like the movie because you can't stand the main character, fair enough. And if you watch the director's cut, Michael talks. Yeah.
Die!
So anyway, yeah, and if you're going to give Michael a line, why that? Like, it's almost, it almost seems purposefully horrible. And I would love to have a conversation with Rob. Like, when you were thinking about making him talk, why did you land on that? But nonetheless, I think Halloween 2 is significantly better than his first film. I think it's got a lot more going for it in the story department as far as exploring grief, exploring trauma. I really love the way that Laurie Strode is introduced to the fact that she actually is a relative to Michael Myers, which is something that we never get in the other incarnations of the movie. So I think it was actually one of the few times I'd say, Rob, you did a good job writing that. That was good. A lot of brutal kills. I actually like the whole thing about Michael using his mask as like a little kill engage mode. So I dig it. I have a good enough time with it. But I get why you guys are probably going to say everything that you have to say. So Sean, as somebody that hates it more than death itself, what's up with that?
Yeah, I just don't need Rob Zombie's Requiem for a Dream as a Halloween sequel. That's just kind of like this, like, let's study different people's reactions to trauma. I don't think this franchise is the right vehicle to do it. I don't think Rob Zombie's the right person to do it when he writes every character with this same just harsh, crassness to him. It's a movie that, kind of, you said, but by design, virtually everyone is insufferable.
Except for Brad Dourif.
I was just good.
You get a great performance from him, heart-wrenching.
Just wasted a brilliant Brad Dourif performance.
And like Loomis doesn't feel like a natural continuation of what was in the previous film. The Rob Zombie dialogue is just not for me. I mean, like, the movie starts off, and even a conversation between two emergency drivers is like, did you check out the tits on that dead chick? Like, hey, I know this guy that he, like, hooks up with dead bodies. You ever thought about it? I'd never thought about it until I saw her. Like, Rob, what are you doing? This is just guys in a car. Just guys in a car, and that's where the conversation goes? Like,
cow!
What? Yeah, right. Like, everything is so nasty, so gross, and
yeah.
So I loved it. I watched it with my kids the next day. It was like a double feature. Hey kids, you know what necrophilia is? Rob's gonna let you know.
Oh man, really quick, and then Brian. The best thing that Rob Zombie movies gave us was Daniel and Scout's podcast. You know what? I can actually agree with that. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 proves that Chucky beats Michael. There we go. Brian, I know that you're actually fairly forgiving, or you've become more forgiving on the first Rob Zombie Halloween film, but you still very much planted your feet that you do not like this one. So where's the big difference between 1 and 2?
I thought you were going to say that I was become more forgiving of this one. No, definitely not. Well, because the second one is basically like the first third of the first one, but stretched out for a full movie. Whereas the first one it's got like the first third is like this one, but then the next 2/3 are a proper remake of John Carpenter's Halloween. So there is something more recognizable in there that I see. Whereas this one is just Rob Zombie being Rob Zombie and using a famous property to get away with being Rob Zombie. And everything Sean just said, basically, it's just sickening to watch. I feel like my intelligence actually decreases as I'm watching it. It's just, yeah, I literally feel myself getting stupid as the film goes on.
That's every day for me, Brian. That's every day. I don't really appreciate high concept Rob Zombie movies, if that's what his idea of a heady horror movie is. White Pony, great Deftones album, not necessary in the Halloween franchise. And Sherry Moon Zombie. Thank God we could squeeze her into this movie somehow. Awesome.
CP, can you take over the hosting part of it for me for a few minutes?
No. Yeah.
You do have you still got the access, right?
Oh no, I
You
don't.
can
I
pick
don't.
everything? What the hell?
Wait, doesn't have access. Get him out of here. You're not going to help, CP? Bye.
Okay, well, anyway, I'll introduce the next one. I have to go outside really quick. 23, Jason Goes to Hell. 23-25, Brian was most forgiving at 17, and Sean had it at 26. Similar argument with Jason X. I have fun with it for what it is. Take it away, Brian.
Jason Goes to Hell. It's clearly not a Friday the 13th movie. Sure, it's got Jason Voorhees in it, but beyond that, it's just some wacky, almost David Lynchian.
It's just the two of us
kinda,
now.
Yeah.
Let's have a thoughtful discussion of Jason Goes to Hell.
So
I had to sign in. I am now in power.
All right. Oh dear. I'll go now. It's just If I totally get any Friday the 13th fan looking at this, going, this ain't what I signed up for.
Right.
This ain't what they're doing. They're killing my franchise. But as it's a franchise I had never cared for at all, I sat down to watch this one and I was like, this is bonkers. This is just, let's throw everything, including the kitchen sink, in there. And because of that, I loved it. It's just like, it's just wacky. It's crazy.
Have you
It's
watched
stupid.
any interviews with the director on the special features? Have you?
I'm not. No.
He's so excited about his ideas. He's like a mega fan of this franchise, but he loves the Evil Dead movies even more. So he's like, so we'll put the Necronomicon in there, and then we'll put a magic dagger that's the dagger from Evil Dead 2. And he does all this stuff, and you're here like, all right, man, this sounds really cool. And he's like, you have to have some explanation as to why Jason came back, because remember, he's dead in the first movie. How did he come back if he drowned? His mother had the Necronomicon. And you're like, as he said, it was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, you are inventing a mythology that pulls this whole thing together. Like, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I've seen the movie. Come on now, man. Come on. What are you doing here? It starts off with a guy eating Jason's heart. Like, come on, man.
Well, it was doing something that was probably quite compelling, and
Well, it possessed him. It
Yeah.
possessed him. It was a demon possession. It was just visualized through this eating of the heart. Yeah.
yeah.
The best part, he wanted to have a message in it, too. He literally says this on the special feature. He wanted to have a message. So many of the previous movies communicated that you're killed if you have sex. And he thought the idea was you get killed if you have unsafe sex. So in the tent, they're about to put a condom on, and they decide not to, and that's why they die. Like, he said that. He's like, I wanted to make an important message. I was like, what franchise do you think you're making a movie for, dude? Like, what? Come on, man.
Yeah, there's a ton of retconning, and then the introduction of Creighton Duke as the bounty hunter, and he's like, "Hey, I've been following Jason for 110 kills," and it's like, "Hey, when are you going to intervene, pal? What, are you just going to watch him kill everybody? What exactly are you doing?"
It's highly entertaining. If this was the first Friday movie that I'd seen, I would have wanted to have gone back and watched the whole series from the beginning. But obviously, I'd have watched the first one and thought, "Hey, this ain't what I signed up for." So
It's weird that this movie gets called a ripoff of The Hidden from 1987, which I only watched this year after, like, having seen it after all of the Jason Goes to Hell stuff. I still prefer Jason Goes to Hell, but I still think Jason Goes to Hell is a travesty as far as Friday the 13th is concerned. He's got sisters now, and you need a special dagger to kill him, and he's like a snake reptile at times.
it's great.
Just what?
Great. Love it.
So
And-
this is CP whenever he hears Brian try to defend Jason Goes to Hell.
You know what I'm gonna do about this? What? Nothing!
Apologies, I had a mini emergency. Apparently my 12-year-old daughter, when she said she was going next door to play, decided that meant she could run around the neighborhood and not tell us where she's at. Pitch black. My wife comes home, freaks out, screaming on the phone, and I'm like, I'll be back. We found her. Okay. Did everybody get to talk about Jason Goes to Hell?
Do we need to?
I'll say this movie always acts as a palate cleanser for me when I binge through this franchise, because you get 8 movies that are essentially the same exact meal, and then you get the Jason Goes to Hell, and it is so wildly unique and weird and different that it's like, oh, thank God, a different flavor.
Yeah.
So that's
Dude,
why I like it.
Let's face it, most of the people in the comments are only here to try and see if me and CP will fight again. So
We're almost there. We got 4 or 5 left.
Yeah, Brian has a teammate this time.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Number 22, we've got The Dream Master, Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I was the most forgiving on this one. We got 21
Were
and
you?
22,
Wow.
pretty close with CP and Brian. And Sean Dislett. Sean is not a fan. Not a fan
No.
of a lot of these Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
I can say the same. Just repeat what I said on 5. It's the same thing. Just post Dream Warriors. Just the vibe. I just didn't like it. And in particular with this one, they start off and immediately kill off the Dream Warriors.
Yeah,
I hate that stuff.
except when it's Terminator's Dark Fate.
Which is awesome. I loved what they did in that one. That was a great choice. But I mean, it's literally, let's undo the ending with a dog pissing fire. Hey,
Yeah.
Rennie Harlan, he's made a bunch of awesome movies. Not this one.
Yeah.
As a kid, this one was my favorite. I think it was
How
because
dare
it's
you.
flashiest. It was more they call it the MTV generation of Freddy. So I think I liked it because of that. I remember watching this one the most with the VHS tape. Where I would typically be right there with you with like the Alien 3 Dark Fate comparison. I think that they let it breathe a bit longer in the opening of this one, where Freddy comes back and he just systematically starts taking them out. Like, you thought you could take me? Like,
But you're
it goes down a
slowly
little.
stretching out the torture of like, how
Yes.
dare you?
Exactly. Stretching out the torture is replacing Patricia Arquette with Tuesday Night. But nonetheless, I have fun with this movie. It's essentially a collection of kill scenes, as I'm sure Brian's going to kind of hammer down on a little bit more than I will. But during the production, they essentially said, okay, Rennie Harlan, here's your characters, go. And so he essentially was just like, and just tried to get really creative and come up with these really interesting kill scenes. Apparently, he really ran out of steam by the time they got to that little karate scene where he's just fighting an invisible Freddy. And then they kind of worked the script around that. But I like the character of Alice. If we're going to replace Nancy with somebody, I think she's a good pick. I like the whole where she kind of gets the personality and the powers, if you will, of her friends as they die, and the little suit up scene at the end, which they paid a really cool homage to, and Terrifier 2 I like. And this is Freddy where, of the Freddys that lean more into comedy than horror, this is the only one that I can tolerate, because he still has a bit of a dark edge to him. So as a Freddy fanatic, as somebody that loved it growing up, I have a lot of nostalgia for it, but don't necessarily disagree with most of the people's issues with it. So next, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, younger me thought of it much more fondly than when I watched it recently. And the one thing, I mean, until 5, 6. The one thing you can count on in Freddy movies are really, really creative kills, and like the sky's the limit. And that's the one thing that I always like respected about A Nightmare on Elm Street, because it's a dream. Like the possibilities are endless. And I thought when they get lost, when they keep driving in a circle or whatever, that was the most realistic nightmare thing. Because I think I've had that dream where I'm just driving in a circle and not going anywhere. And then I watched it again as an adult, and I was like, this is not as good as I remember. But it's not 5 or 6. That's for certain. Rennie Harlan, like Sean said, Rennie Harlan has done some good work. Just writing on the fly probably. Is that a lemon?
A lemon. I just found a lemon on the floor.
That's how Brian keeps his sour face going.
All right.
You
know, as Brits, we like our lemons.
And it was cut.
Ashes everywhere. Oh, Lord. Anything to add there, Mr. Lomax?
Just the only thing...
Lemonade.
The only thing I remember from 4 that really just annoyed me for some reason is that people just seem to be falling asleep left, right, and centre for no reason. just like during the middle of the day at school, and it's just like, how many of these kids are going to fall asleep at school? And it's just...
I fell asleep every day in school.
I was going to say, dude, I made a career of that.
You turned on that projector, it was like...
Yeah.
It just felt like we need someone to fall asleep now so we could just get to a kill. So they just randomly have someone fall asleep. It's not a well-written film at all.
How about the chick that falls asleep while working out? Oh, man. That's a good observation. That's funny. You could do a lot of good bits with that. CP, what the hell? That was yours. Karate and horror films should be forbidden by law, especially in this franchises. I'm imagining Michael going on a Shakespeare rant in Halloween 2. Love you guys. Okay. All right.
What was the bit that I should have done? I was typing
karate and horror.
People falling asleep in random ass places.
Oh. 21, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. Brian again trying to bring it up to the top. I was the harshest on this one at 27, and then a little bit closer to the middle there we got CP and Uncle Sean. It's a movie that, like, I have it lower on my list than everybody else. I would still say it's a movie that's not quite as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. It's perfectly watchable. It's fine as like a 2000s-ish kind of horror film. There's some interesting visuals there. I think that Jackie Earle Haley does not deserve anywhere near the amount of hate that he gets, because it's the movie. It's the movie that's the problem, not Jackie. If he was in a better movie, I think he would have been a perfectly fine replacement for Robert Englund. Where the movie goes off the rails for me is that it makes the mistake, and the thing that I hate a remake to do is let's just copy casting
the
Rooney
film.
Mara. Oh,
That's one of them. But let's just copy the original film beat for beat. Let's just do the exact same shots, but with CG. Like even just the classic little spandex thing that they did in the first film. In this one, it's like a big cloud monster, and it's just like, dude, that looks like shit. You have Rooney Mara here, who, no pun intended, is asleep the entire movie. There's a record. She's on record somewhere about saying she didn't care about the movie, didn't care about the character. Then why the hell did you take the paycheck? Let somebody else do it. I think the movie actually would have been better if they would have killed her off as a surprise and let Katie Cassidy be the lead. Woo! Somebody's yelling. And then you have the whole thing where they're like, is Freddy innocent? Or is he not innocent? And it's like, okay, well, if he ends up being innocent, that's kind of interesting. If not, then that's pointless. Oh, it's pointless. Okay. And then you have what CP hinted at earlier, which is like, okay, so now he's not a child murderer. He's just a diddler. That's always been
just a diddler.
That's always been a little bit of salt on top of the Freddy, where there's just a little seasoning that we don't talk about that's kind of implied.
Yeah.
And this movie was like, spotlight, let's talk about that. And I've said it before, the great Woody Bowen, who does all of my graphic design, made a shirt for me. A lot of times we watch these slasher films to see the killer, to see the slasher villain. They're the stars of the show. They're the reasons that we're there. We're kind of rooting for them in a weird way. can't root for you if you're fucking kids. So, yeah.
True.
Yeah. So, Brian, you like this much more than everybody else. I'm sure you don't really necessarily disagree with anything I said, but why is it much higher on the list for you?
Same reason I said before. It's like
Just by comparison, the others are worse.
What did they have? Number 14.
Yeah, 14.
See, like, just to give you a ballpark, this film only just gets a 3-star rating for me. It's like it's literally just it's 1
5 7 8.
Yeah, it's one more bad scene away from being a 2.5. So it's just I think because of the onslaught it gets from fans that just act like it's the worst film ever made, I come to it thinking, oh man, this is going to be... And I watch it and I'm like, it was bland. Probably not going to be in a rush to see it again anytime soon, but it does the job. It's just that, really. It's just down the middle. It's an average early noughties horror flick, and that's it. It's just that everything below it is really not that great.
Yeah, to grab onto a couple things that you guys have touched on, the combination of playing around with the idea that maybe he's innocent and making him a kitty diddler makes you as the audience feel sympathy and feel bad for the kitty diddler until it's so it's like it's a very like an unpleasant experience for the audience. Like, I don't want you to toy with me like that. I don't want you to make me going like, maybe he's innocent. No, that guy, I don't care that he was burned alive. I'm glad that he was burned alive. Like, I don't want you to toy with me if you're going to do something like that. But I think there's a lot of things about it where it's a competent enoughly made film that it's not as bad as some people say, but also not that good either.
I don't know if you've ever seen the film Little Children.
I watched that before I saw Nightmare on Elm Street because I watched Watchmen and just heard his voice and I was like, that dude would play a good Freddy Krueger. And then I kind of like set it into fruition. And then I remember back in the old message board days when that was the only way you could talk about movies. I was on there and someone's like, no, if you think Watchmen makes it, like, you need to watch Little Children. And I was like, ooh. And I watched
that pool scene.
I just remember the scene where he's in a car with somebody and all of a sudden you start hearing like,
like, yeah, on a first date.
Yeah.
I just remember him cutting his own dick off and thinking, oh,
spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler.
Yeah. So there's a
What is this? What's
he
this movie
plays
that I need to avoid?
He plays a K diddler in Little Children, and he goes to the local pool, like the pool for the county or whatever. And everybody's got their kids and everything in the pool, and he's the only one with like those what do you call those scuba Steves? And he's got the whole scuba gear, and he's just swimming, and people slowly start to notice that it's him, and it's like right out of Jaws, the way the kids, everybody, all the parents are just parting away from him, and then they get
that makes it sound quite comedic, but it's
no, it's horrifying. It really,
Caddyshack.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's an absolutely brilliant film.
Yeah.
Because that actually, dare I say, does make you sympathise with the diddler at one point
because of the cop guy.
Yeah, and because he has this.
Just took a turn.
Over the film, he has this sense that he knows he's wrong, and he kind of he wants it out of him. He wants this condition out of him, and he's you see that he's this guy. You can't. It's a great film, but it's dark.
It's really dark, and it's like so underseen too. Like nobody talks about it. Really good trailer. The trailer probably makes that movie seem a hell of a lot more action-packed than the movie, but yeah.
Sold mostly on the sex between Kate Winslet and Patrick Wilson. It makes you think it's a rom-com.
Yeah. Kate Winslet got nude in that movie. That's crazy. You never see that. You never see Kate Winslet nude in movies. Sorry.
You're good. Speaking of a
So
trailer
anyway-
that doesn't sell the movie completely well. Rob Zombie's Halloween. Brian the most forgiving on this one. I did not expect that. So I guess I was the hardest on it. You got CP and Sean there more in the middle. This is a movie where I remember when I first saw the trailer, I had only seen Devil's Rejects at that point. And when I first watched it, I was like, so not for me. It's not really a movie that I would say is for me at this point, but I've grown to appreciate things about it. Nonetheless, that was my only introduction to what Rob Zombie does with movies. And then they said Rob Zombie's Halloween, and I was like, well, that could be really interesting. And the trailer only focused on kind of the kid and the asylum side of things, and there was just a few shots later on about they kind of looked like John Carpenter stuff. And I went to go see this with my dad, and wow, did that first 20 minutes just completely take the wind out of your sails. It was like, oh my God, this is not what I hoped it would be. Once you get past the first 30 minutes, it becomes a watchable movie. Once it gets into the last act, it actually becomes a fairly entertaining Halloween movie, I would say.
It becomes the Gus Van Sant Halloween.
Yes, it's a ramped up cocaine fueled version of the original 1978 movie with a few twists. But that first 30 minutes, I think it's unwatchable. As many times as I've seen this movie, I still cannot stomach the first 20 to 30 minutes. The dialogue and the family, the dialogue when he gets to school and the bullies. I mean, even the first kill with the bully is just like, it's disturbing in a way it's intended, but it's just like, this is not a... Now we're getting to the killing, and I'm not enjoying the killing. So yeah,
I hate it when I can't enjoy killing.
I'm telling you, you ruined it, making me feel bad. But no,
that would actually, in general, be my issue with the Halloween Rob Zombie Halloween films. In the book, not the special features, in the book taking shape, there's all these interview clips from Rob Zombie. He's like, murder is horrifying, so of course it should be off-putting. It's like, well, then maybe you shouldn't be making these movies if you don't want to entertain people with murder, because that's kind of what they are. And you just kind of watch them, and it's like watching this kid like brutally murder his bully, and you're like, ooh. And they talk about the earlier drafts that were even more like, and then he pees on the body, and like, Rob, come on, man.
Thing is, I think what Rob Zombie does with these movies is makes them in the way that most people who criticize horror fans think horror fans think. If you get what I mean. It's like, so people who are down with horror and say you shouldn't watch horror movies because it's all just killing this, that, and the other. I think they look at horror fans and in their mind, the majority of horror fans are like, essentially what Rob Zombie is doing with those movies. And I don't want to be sickened by it, because actually I do know that murder in real life is horrific. I do know that murder in real life is something I don't want to have any part of. That's not why I go to horror movies. There's a certain side to horror movies, slasher movies in particular, that allows you to remain detached because of how bonkers it is, because of how surrealistic it is, because of how, Jason
because you're
Voorhees,
in space.
Yeah, because you're in space. Because Jason Voorhees is clearly like, you can't kill him. It's those things they add to it that are just they're beyond the realm of believability, that it allows you to remain detached in a way that is, I know this ain't real, so I can go along with it. It's entertaining. But what he's doing is he's saying, no, like, murder's like, it's horrible, so I'm going to hit you in the face with the reality of it. And it's like, but that's not what we come here for. We're not sickos, despite what some people might think.
Horror and comedy are the two genres where, like, people don't really care so much about the movie so much as, oh, the scares were really good. Oh, the jokes were really good. So it's more like an amusement park ride. Yeah. Like you're like, oh, it felt like I was gonna die on that last turn, but I was on the track. It's okay.
If you're gonna show a murder scene in a really realistic, hard-hitting way, then you need to be making a movie like Zodiac. You need to be making a movie like Silence of the Lambs. Something that is rooted in story and character, that is trying to show you a believable side of the serial killer. That's more of a thriller kind of aesthetic kind of thing. But yeah, Rob Zombie doesn't have that because he can't write for crap. So what we get is brutality mixed with really bad dialogue, and
it's
it just
sexual violence specifically.
yeah.
The director's cut,
Yeah.
like it's like
Yeah.
there's like two people just raping someone in this
Yeah.
room just to provide a context for him to leave.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And
Yeah.
and
Like
then
the number of people,
Jamie
girls that
Lloyd
are
of all
killed.
people too, just like
Right. Like,
but the
I get
sense-
she's
but the-
older than me. I get that she was 30. It's still weird to take the little girl from the Halloween movie and be like,
Yeah.
and then she runs around naked for 15 minutes
Yeah.
while being stabbed. Like,
yeah.
But
Why?
the sense that I get from Rob Zombie as a filmmaker when I watch his movies is that he is
likes his
entertained by that stuff. He is entertained by that in the way that most horror fans are entertained by, the more out there, like over the top, I can detach myself from it stuff. And that's why it's just always off for me. It's why I can't get into him as a filmmaker, because I'm like, I feel like you're asking me to be entertained by this, and I can't be. I draw the line at this point. Some people might feel judged by that statement, but if that's the case, look inwardly.
No,
Remember
there's
that
been
comment that I had on my Terrifier 2 review? I described it as I think Cody, you read this one. I described it as like a hardcore horror film, and so it goes, well, it's not that hardcore. There's no sexual violence. There's no rape. I was like, what?
That was the box you needed ticked for that
like-
particular title.
What on earth are you saying, man?
the bed kill is a short film, for fuck's sake. Oh my god. Oh.
We're gonna get
And
Brian
he
to watch.
he
Terrifier
said
2
it so
before.
matter of fact too. It's like, I mean, actually, there's none of this, so it's pretty tame. It's basically a kids movie.
Yeah.
Should be a 12A.
Subjective and relative, I guess. So, you guys have said everything about Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween. I didn't get to see it in theaters. My girlfriend at the time wasn't a horror fan, but I rented it. Either rented it or bought it the day it came out, and I was at her house and was watching it on the TV, and she was not in the room because she doesn't like horror, and her parents showed up, and it's the first 20 minutes, and like they've only known me for like yeah they've only known me for 6 months, and I'm sitting there just watching, just skull fuck the shit out of you, and I'm like, this isn't what it looks like. Like I was just so stuck.
I'm sorry.
I was like, I'm not going to be able to marry her, am I?
Thanks, Rob. Oh Lord. Moving on to 19. We got
because I had it the highest. The reason was, again, like I say, the remake stuff, the stuff that is recognisable, is actually really good. When I first saw this film, I saw it in the cinema with a friend. After 20 minutes, I walked out because I found an excuse. I walked out. Yeah, and I just left him to it because, to be honest, if I'd have said, "Look, can we go?" and he said yes, then we'd have gone, because I was done. So I had about 10-15 minutes outside just chilling. I worked at the cinema, so I talked to a few of the staff because they were mates, and then I just thought, I'm going to go back in, see where we're at. I went in, and we'd got to Haddonfield. I sat down, my interest got piqued, and I was like, I quite like this. This is all right. So, and then I watched it a second time years later, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that first half hour, you're talking number 33 on this list. The last half of the film is like, I don't know, number 7 on the list. So if you average that out, that's why it ends up.
It's just so strange that the brilliance behind the Michael Myers character is the shape. You don't know why he's killing, and Rob Zombie saw that and said, I'm going to give him a backstory, and he's going to have a fucked up family.
My sister didn't take me trick-or-treating. Fuck the world.
Yeah, like don't explain that shit. You ruined it.
Exactly. Friday the 13th, Part 3. Me and CP and Sean pretty tight knit there. 19, 18, 19. Brian a little less on it, 23. And yeah, I mean it's kind of damn, we did the same thing. I swear we didn't see each other do that. Yeah, that's the movie for a lot of it. Just like, hey, you need a cigarette? Lemon. The first, maybe even the first half, but certainly the first third of this movie is a slog to get through. It takes forever to get going. Once it does, I think it's actually a pretty entertaining movie. I think Richard Brooker, I could totally entertain the argument that he's the best Jason. He's in my top 3. I like, you get the hockey mask in this one, so Jason finally looks like the iconic Jason that we know. I think Chris is actually a really good final girl. Some fairly entertaining characters. I used to hate Shelley. I've grown to kind of be appreciative of the comedic value of the character. Even the bikers, when they show up, I think it's kind of fun with the barn that we spend 2/3 of this movie at. But yeah, it's just a long time to get to the good stuff. If the third act of the movie was the same kind of level of intensity as the other 2 acts, this would probably be top 4 Friday the 13th for me. But it's just a decent enough time that ages horrifically because all the 3D effects are like the really forced ones. Like, hey, here. Couple of kills are cool with the little, the eye pop and thing, but I've never been able to watch the movie in 3D. CP.
Yeah, the first 3 Friday the 13th don't, as every month passes, they age worse and worse. I can admit that. Richard Brooker is perhaps the best. Like you said, arguably one of the better Jasons. The third act is really, really strong by Friday the 13th standards. I mean, it's just so funny that the fact that him just taking his mask off for a second freaked that girl out enough to it's you. And I forget. Did she imply that he was trying to?
It's always been debated.
Yeah, that's the one thing where I'm like, no, don't. That's Freddy's thing.
And, yeah, it's a little weird. I'm like, wait a minute.
Freddy's the diddler. Don't make Jason a diddler. But
I love the fact that the first 3 Friday the 13th movies have Jason look entirely different, like not even close to what he looked like in the previous film, and they never address it.
They're
I was
just
a kid in the
razor-
last
just-
one. It's been a few months, but now I'm a full-grown man with long hair and a messed up face. You get to the next one, I'm bald and stocky.
and I've changed.
Yes.
And 2, 3, and 4 take place over a weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah. Don't make sense of any.
not even Friday anymore.
Yeah, dude. It's Tuesday the 20th. Can you whatever the fuck?
Brian, do you enjoy this one at all, or is it still kind of in the moving on kind of?
It's just boring to me. It's just like nothing happens. When it kicks off at the end, like last 20 minutes or so, I'm entertained.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Him hissing against the window like a cat.
I love the
I just found it
handstand
dull.
kill, and then you see the dude's legs split up in the rafters. I think that's a good one.
It's a good behind the scenes kill, right, Sean?
That's right. In the book, they actually. I don't really have anything to add on this one. It's kind of in that phase of like rinse and repeat, and so it's like, okay, one more. Jason shows up. This time he got his mask, and they do this a lot.
Yeah,
That's it.
And you
Yeah.
get a disco
Looks
soundtrack.
cheap.
Doom, doom, doom.
Oh
Yeah.
right. Oh, actually, could we move it up on mine for the soundtrack? I'll by 5 spots redo the math.
everything that people like really kind of like about Friday 3, I do not like the disco soundtrack version. I kind of hate. Shelley, I'm really not fond of, and the mother coming out of the water, she doesn't have a head. And how did she get her sweater back? And yes, I get it; it's a dream sequence, but what?
You just told us not to ask questions, and now you're asking questions.
Yeah.
Don't even bother.
Yeah.
Dreams are inherently
Tuesday the 20th.
illogical. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's
and my
it was
favorite
incredible.
movie of all time is Inception too. So I just
You know what I figured out as an awesome time saver is when you're rewatching the first 3 films, just stop the movie about 15 minutes before the end, and then just start the next one, and they just go together.
yeah.
You can save 45 minutes.
You could save yourself about 4.5 hours by just not watching them.
And on that note, ring the bells. Friday the 13th. CP at number 7.
Look at that,
Sean at number
26 and
12,
28.
and then we got some division on this one, boys. And this has always been one of those big debates amongst the group, and now we are here.
That you could do so you.
I have a neurological disorder.
That's not what I was poking fun at. Don't you take it dark. Oh my god.
You've been talking like that for years. Come on.
My god. You know what? Just for that, you get another one.
The problem here?
Yeah, there's a problem. Fucking Snatch Face is a fucking problem, man. This thing's don't want to do to you, motherfucker. Just I'll bite your fucking ear off.
Wait, what was that? I've never seen that movie.
Bulletproof? You never seen Bulletproof?
No.
Oh, that's one of Adam Sandler's best. Okay. Friday the 13th, 1980. So for those that have been with us for a while, the big iconic moment, the very first debrief, 31 on 31, was a moment between these two diagonal gentlemen. Shit. These two. I don't know. Anyway, Brian had made the argument. He only had it like a spot or two higher, but he made the argument that Friday the 13th 5 was a little bit better than Friday the 13th 1980, and it just caused a big uproar. And I was always on CP's side about that while loving the argument. You know, we always love when Brian gets going. And so I sat down to rewatch these movies with the full intent that they were not going to move that much. You know, I didn't see the Jason movies really at me seeing anything new. And my God, this first film, I watched it and I was just like, there's really nothing happening in this movie at all between kills. Like, they just have a scene where they're just like, hey, let's go kill a snake. Okay.
Literally.
And then you have Kevin Bacon and the chick go sit by the pier.
Kevin
and
Bacon.
They just talk about stuff that doesn't develop them at all. And then they go back inside. You have a scene where Alice is making coffee literally for like 5 minutes. They have to show her get the beans and grind the beans and put it in the cup. And it's that type of thing over and over and over again. They're playing strip Monopoly just because. You get the Christie guy that goes to the diner just to meet the chick at the diner that goes nowhere. And so I'm sitting here and I was just like, why did I never see this before? Like, aside from the kills and aside from Betsy Palmer being fairly iconic for how anti-traditional whodunit that reveal is, the movie's just got nothing. It's got like 20 minutes of plot that they stretched out to 90 minutes with really shitty cameras, a couple of lights. And with the premise,
I don't think there were lights.
Yeah. Yeah. Moon's bright tonight. Let's shoot.
There's I think it was Emily's video actually where she did one on.
I was just gonna give her a shout out.
Where they get
the motorcycle.
they get in the car and then you see it do like a 7-point turn or whatever, and then like drive off, and you literally could have just cut to a car driving off straight away.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't have that 82-minute runtime if they cut all that stuff.
Dude, this thing would have felt padded at 35 minutes. I was just, when I watched it this time, that's all I saw was those sequences where I was just like, I think as I watched it really late, I was really, really impatient with it, to where I was just like, what the fuck? There is nothing happening.
No.
She's still making coffee. And so yeah, this one dropped significantly. I think it dropped 9 spots in my list this year because, and I've said it before, Friday the 13th is weird because most of the time when you get into franchises, especially horror, everybody always usually says the first one's God. Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw. Most people are like the first one. You get to Friday the 13th, you will be hard pressed to find a Friday the 13th fan that says the first one is the best. You'll be hard pressed to find one that says in the top 3. And so it's very strange that this does not follow that rule. It's also even stranger that a movie that, for all intents and purposes, look, even if you're a fan of it, I'm sure you can acknowledge just the technical side of how terrible the movie is. That a movie that bad, bad, made a 12 film franchise. And until recently, it was the longest going slasher franchise until Michael kind of trumped him. But it was just, when I watched it this time, I saw nothing but flaws. And I was like, damn, I'm going to have to agree with Brian. I don't like this. Maybe I should rewind it.
Say nothing but flaws. 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Bacon.
There you go. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those movies where, like, I think I always respected the legacy of it more than I actually liked it. But when I watched it this most recent time, I was just like, dude, this movie sucks. I just could not, for whatever reason, as soon as I started to see the things that I guess I used to have tunnel vision for or blinders on, I was just like, oh my God, there's so much of that. Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a Team Brian shirt because he converted me on this one. Doesn't happen very often, but yeah, I watched it and I was just like, oh my God, this is going to be fun. So, CP.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's cheaply made. They forgot lights. Well, I knew what I was dealing with down there, so I pulled
manipulated it.
I pulled a Floridian when it came to tomatoes.
Shocking. Shocking.
No, there's nostalgia here. I don't want to say what I'm about to say because I'm going to get laughed out of the fucking building. But the mother son thing, the fact that she's so pissed off about the fact that nobody was watching her son. I think it's in one of those documentaries, Sean, where she talks. Betsy Palmer, when she was still alive, talks about. She asks fans, like, why do you like this movie so much? Why do you like my character? And they're like, we can relate, we understand. And I can kind of agree with that.
With the last 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, you're being cute. It's
my
the third act. It's the third act. But yeah, it's not. It ages poorly. I just said it before. The first 3, they're padded. The further away from their release date you get, the harder it is to defend, and which is why I'm sort of stammering here. But it was iconic for the fact that it was the first female major killer, which is an argument we had the first time. Sean, please tag in. I don't care if you have nothing to add. Just
all right.
So tired of this.
So this movie was made to rip off Halloween. Halloween's a classic, therefore this is a classic. Boom. Mic drop.
Boom.
I got more great arguments where that came from. Yeah, I mean, it certainly hasn't aged the best. There's an amount of factoring in its legacy, its importance, certain amount of nostalgia. As I've said many times, this was the franchise that I watched the most growing up. Certain about the novelty of it just being kind of different from the rest of the franchise, in that Jason's not the killer in it. It's a bit of a Scooby-Doo story about who's the killer. Maybe not the best mystery of all time, but so I don't feel a terrible need to try and convince you of it. I understand everything you guys are saying about the movie's faults.
Right, right, and there's heavy nostalgia here, and the probably one of the bigger deficiencies that this movie has is it's really a cover band. I mean, outright. Sean Cunningham said, "I want to rip off
Yeah.
Halloween."
Yeah,
He had
overtly.
Yeah, yeah. He can thank the lawsuit for that statement. All I had was a title. Well, then that's all you're gonna have. Enjoy your money, sir. There's the Carrie mocked ending. Like there's just a bunch of things that they the Psycho-esque theme. It's just a good cover band.
It's a cover band. I'll give you that. It's a cover
Zoozed.
band.
Sean Sheridan, Friday has a padded runtime, but it's a whodunit, which is more story than nearly all the rest of them, and Pamela Voorhees is better than Jason.
I don't know if there's story.
Look,
There's a
I always
whodunit
say this.
aspect.
I
Playing it
always say
fast
this.
and loose with the word story there, man.
I
Yeah.
always say this: the remake takes the story of the first 4 films and combines it, and still feels light on story. So,
Oh, yeah.
whoops, I'm gonna do that again. We also have how long does John Doe explain himself in 7? The whole last third, basically. All right.
Well, the car ride.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference between 7.
Yeah,
Oh my
listen.
God, yeah.
Listen.
Well, Friday the 13th is 13, and 7 is only 7. So
It's like,
Friday the
listen,
13th is almost twice as
just-
good.
It's Jack,
Fri-
please don't help. Don't be
Fri-
putting Friday the 13th and 7 in the same sentence because
Friday the 13th has got kills, and that's it. 7 has got so much more on its bones beside the reveal of the killer. It's a story about 2 detectives who are at opposite ends of the career, and
Right.
it's about their relation. Yeah,
right.
It's just
it's 7.
do one. Get out.
I,
of the room.
however, need to be convinced of this argument. Why do you think that 7 has more story and character, thematic importance than Friday the 13th?
It troubles me, right? It troubles me that there are people out there that would literally compare the two as if they're on the same level. It troubles me.
I know when I'm thinking about my favorite horror directors, I normally go to like David Fincher and Sean Cunningham.
Sean Cunningham isn't a good director.
How dare you, sir? He's my second favorite.
Like I said, cover band. He did a bootleg Bad News Bears movie. He did like a fucking shitty romance movie that he copied. Like, fucking guy's lucky to be rich is what I'm saying, and he's still fighting for money too.
I blame people like you for him being rich.
Hey, listen, I meet me further down the road.
Team Victor Miller.
He's all. He for Jason Goes to Hell. He's like, I want that mask off of Jason. Oh, the thing that's fucking making you money? Yeah, good call, Sean. You're a fucking idiot. You know that?
Oh Lord. Okay.
He
this
came
one-
back. To
Not
make
you,
Jason-
Sean Cunningham.
But he came back to make Jason X, so we can thank him for that.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's like, this is a good idea right here. This is great.
It's different because it's like metal now, so it's like futuristic.
Power Rangers is fucking popping off on this TV. We got to make a movie. 17. We got Friday the 13th Part 2. You had this one lower, CP. That's going to be an interesting argument there. Okay, so 18, 21, 16, 13. I want you to explain to me, because I don't often, to be honest with you, I don't often find anybody that says that the first one is better than the second one. So as
Makes no
since
sense.
nostalgia plays a big part in the first one, why is Friday the 13th Part 2 a lesser film than the original?
I think that the ballots are still not being counted in Arizona, to be honest with you. So I don't know if those numbers are accurate. No, I like 2 more than 1, but I needed to. I cheated. I
He
cheated.
needed to up the averages.
Yeah.
So basically, he screwed us.
Yeah, us.
I'm disappointed.
No. I like 2 more than 1. But but you know,
So you're a liar.
So you're lying.
I'm not a liar.
You're right.
I
Your
just-
video is complete BS. Basically.
at some point, I liked one.
No.
Before I saw two.
No. Just
This is what happens
Shocking.
when CP decides to take 2 weeks longer to do his video. If you would have
Yeah.
just been on time, we would have had the
Uh-huh.
true list and it Friday the 13th, fucking 1980 here.
that's
would
why I
have
did
been
it.
like
He
22.
waited. He waited till we'd all done ours. And
Nah.
he looked and he thought, "What do I need to put Friday the 13th out on my list to bump it
Brian,
up?"
listen. I only had like 5 minutes, so I watched all of your video. That's the only thing that I cheated with.
So, as somebody that still doesn't think that Friday the 13th Part 2 is a very good movie, why I prefer it to the first one and why I would rather rewatch that one than the first one is that I do think that the characters are better in the movie. I think that the final girl is significantly better. I
Ginny's
think
smart.
Alice is a terrible final girl.
I agree.
I think that there's some really good kills in it, like the back, to the face and the wheelchair guy going backwards is one of the best ones in the franchise. I'm not a big fan of Sackhead Jason, though. I think the Sackhead Jason is done significantly better in the remake. I think he looks kind of doofy with the one eye hole and the pitchfork that breaks on the chair and shit. So it's a decent enough time if I'm in a Friday the 13th mood, but not one of my favorites. CP, anything to add besides?
No, you said it. Ginny could be one of, I mean, arguably top 3 final girls in the Friday franchise. And what I said in my review is, anybody who's stupid enough to only cut one eye hole out of their sack will probably fall for anybody wearing his mother's sweater, and she was smart enough to figure that out. And, interesting scene, and weird how he, like you said, how different he looked from even from 1 to 2. When he jumps through the window, like that was really scary. I remember at the time, but like wait, what? He was a kid, and now he's got all this. Why is he Dexter at the end of season 8? What the? No,
Sean.
it's better than 1. It's better than 1.
Friday the 13th Part 2. You had it at 16. It's about halfway up the list.
Yeah.
So you love it.
I don't really have much to add here. The Friday the 13th, they're just easily consumable slashers for me. It's our first appearance of Jason as the actual killer. It's a little bit shorter than the first one, so it moves a little bit quicker. But I don't have anything interesting to add to it. I just kind of like these ones, and this is before it started to get too much of just like we're rehashing stuff we've done a bunch of times before. But it's also not as fun as or just good as some of the ones in the top 10.
I do like, in contrast to Michael Myers, I do like the first couple of movies Jason ran, which was a little more
until the
believable.
remake.
You fucking people! I swear to God.
I read it in the comments. Cody's right.
Jason doesn't do that.
Yeah. No, he ran quite a bit.
And of all the franchises to do that, Jason doesn't do that. This franchise? This franchise?
You're messing up our lore. All right. Anything to add, Brian? Or are we moving on?
Please move on.
Moving on. All right. So Sean didn't have much to add in that one, but he's going to have plenty to add because Halloween Ends is at 16, where he by far had the lowest at 24. Me and CP right there in the middle, and I like it a good bit more than CP too. So that's pretty interesting. We're pretty close there. Must have been that Friday the 13th number that screwed it up.
Yeah.
And then Brian there at 8. And
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah.
Explain.
Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?
Brian, I'm going to start with you, and then I'm going to go over to Sean. So you had it pretty high on your list. You were much more favorable on it in your review than most people. And so, as somebody that had differing experiences with Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, what was the experience with Ends that made it so much better than those two films? Or at least made it better. Maybe not so much better.
First of all, I've only seen this film once.
Loser.
So yes, it's definitely easier to be more cemented in your opinion on a film when you've seen it more than once. So,
for sure.
Like I saw Halloween Killed last year, and I was like, a lot of people are ragging on it. I enjoyed it. I saw it this year, and I was like, oh, dear Lord, it was not good. So I could watch this next year, and like, of all the movies on this list, this is the one that has the potential to go fall off. No, I felt like of the three David Gordon Green films, this one engaged me the most. I think a lot of the criticisms people have are valid. I think the film sets up stuff way too late in the day that should have been set up in Halloween 2018 if this is to feel like a cohesive trilogy. Certainly the character, the lad who turns, his backstory and stuff should have been set up in the previous movies so that he was at least there. He was at least a cog in the machine. But he wasn't. So whatever. We got that age-old Halloween thing where they get to a sequel and they just decide, right, we're just going to do something totally different. All right, they've done that. Does it hold my interest? Yeah, it did. I was more gripped by the characters. I enjoyed their story. I actually felt for the kid before he started to turn and go creepy and turn a bit Myers himself. It ain't a classic. It's it's a 3.5 star movie.
This is a testament to just how much Brian hates most of these movies, because this is number 8 on his list, and he's basically shitting on it.
Let's just say the Sci-Fi 31. Let's just say the Sci-Fi 31 nails the movies on this.
You gotta get in the right mindset, Brian. We're not talking about Alien and Blade Runner here.
Sorry, I didn't hear a word you said because my headphones came up.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about steak, lobster, and potato chips. We're just no.
We're in the Taco Bell parking lot right now.
That's the difference, I guess, between us, is that when I go to get something to eat, I want a steak and a lobster every time. I don't want to go out and buy a McDonald's ever. So
I do.
I want a cheesy gordita crunch with extra spicy ranch sauce, a side of fries.
So explain split second to me again.
Well,
no, we're not diverting.
As you'll know from our watch of Split Second, I don't hold that film in as high regard anymore.
Yeah, see, so things change.
Super Chad, hey Cody and gang, just wanted to say congrats on hitting 100K. Thank you so much. You deserve it with all the hard work you do. Keep it the awesome content. Alrighty then. Okay, Sean.
Yes.
So we've heard why it's the most
awesome,
tolerable thing on earth. So take it away.
The ringing endorsement from Brian.
I don't know. It just felt like a total misfire to me. They're trying to do something new and different. I can respect that. That doesn't mean it works or makes any sense. And I was like watching, like trying to get on board with it. Like the opening sequence is like, that's kind of interesting. Okay, gotcha. And then it's like a grown man being bullied by the high school band. Like, what? Like, what is a grown man being bullied by high school? What is this?
Yeah.
And then like there's a scene in the sewer where Corey pushes over Michael Myers and beats him up. Like, this is not working for me.
You must have missed the dialogue too. He's like, you're nothing. You're just a guy in a mask, and it's just like, what the fuck? What do you, Busta Rhymes?
Right. It knocks him over to steal his mask, and like, what are we doing here? And just even the part where like how unclear it is exactly what went down when Michael and Corey made eye contact. Like what was going? What is even going on in this movie? What's being implied? And then they do all the stuff with Corey.
You just need everything spelled out for you.
I do. And then you get to the third act, and he kills himself, and then we just do the showdown that was promised in the trailers. So, what was the first hour and 15 minutes of this movie? Like, what was all of that if you're just going to kill the guy off just to do the other thing anyway?
Yeah.
And so I just don't
It was all a metaphor for the hysteria created by COVID and how it spreads fear amongst people and then we end up attacking each other. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, I'd like to move this up to number 7 on my list. Redo the numbers real quick.
Yeah, that moment you just talked about where he sticks the knife in his throat and then all of a sudden Michael shows up and puts the mask on and it's like, oh, this is the trailer now.
Yeah.
That is where the movie dropped almost a full star for me because I was actually in the theater going, a lot of people are going to be pissed about this, but I'm kind of digging it. And it makes no sense as a final chapter in a trilogy. I don't care all the little TikTok arguments you can throw at me. It makes zero sense as the concluding chapter of a trilogy.
This
because
one's about the evil impacting the city.
You're not a Halloween fan. You're a Michael Myers fan. Yeah. So
right. This argument is so infuriating. If you like the movie, fair enough. But like, don't act as if people are being crazy for not liking this movie that obviously was making bold choices. They knew what they were doing. They knew this is not what people signed up for.
Jamie Lee Curtis herself said months ago, this is going to piss a lot of people off. And they were like, what does that mean? Do you die? No, that's not what that means.
They didn't have their ending locked in August. That's bad.
They should have had their ending locked in when they made Halloween 2018.
You got that right.
The fact of the matter is, they said right from the beginning, this is a trilogy that we've got planned.
Well, no, they made the first one.
You planned to make 3 films because you want to make money. So you've said, let's make 3.
You like money.
But it's just like, but you didn't plan 3 films in the sense that, we've got a story that we need to tell, but it's going to take us 3 films to tell it.
So what happened? What happened?
They pulled a Halloween.
David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, when they went to go pitch this movie to everybody, including John Carpenter, I believe it was Danny McBride that said it. He said they had ideas for 2 films, but they didn't want to kind of put the cart before the horse, so they just went with the first film. They just pitched Halloween 2018. And then if it succeeded, then they'll make the second one. And it succeeded way more than they thought it was going to. So that second film became 2 films. And if you put Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends together, you could very easily see the majority of Halloween Kills and the last 20 minutes of Halloween Ends being one film. But they decided to go the let's make even more money route. COVID kind of fucked that up too. And then
certainly fucked up the ending of Kills.
They take the third act out of Halloween Kills and put it into another movie, and they go, oh shit, well now what? And they had some idea for it. I swear to you, I saw interviews where they said that this was going to take place on the same night, all 3 of them, and it was going to be about this and that, and they had the ending
as of 2020, Kills. That was supposed to be it.
Of Halloween Kills, and since this movie has come out, they have retracted that. They said, "Oh no, this was always the plan. It was always the plan to do this."
Yeah,
and I don't believe that for a fucking second. And you look at where COVID, they sat on their ass.
Cody, a guy argued with me and you on Twitter about that. So
yeah.
He argued on Twitter.
Because the guy that wrote the novelization or the guy that helped with the script writing did an interview over on We Watched a Movie and said all of this. And I was not involved, so I'm not going to try to be condescending on something that I was not there for. Maybe this was a part of the plan, but it sure as hell does not feel like it. It felt like there was a very clear visual thing that was tying all the movies together. The way that Halloween Kills ended, that this was going to be a trilogy all in the same night. And then COVID, they sat around and they got cold feet and they started thinking of all these new ideas. And then they changed that and turned it into this movie, which the biggest logic issue I have with Ends, and I like the movie just fine. Biggest issue I have with Ends is that, okay, something that I got a lot of shit for in 2018, which is saying that this Laurie Strode does not feel real to me. This feels like the version of H2O, but turned up to 11, and it doesn't feel as grounded. And the one little traumatic event where a couple of high school friends died 40 years ago has consumed every second of every minute of every day of her life for 40 years. I don't quite buy that.
No.
And so, okay, fine. You want me to buy into that? Fine. Okay, we'll go with that. And now you get to Halloween Kills and her daughter gets butchered. And then she decides to move on. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Her last words in Halloween Kills are I'm coming to kill you, Michael. And then one of the first things she does and ends is bake a fucking pie. Like, what happened to I'm
That was
gonna
the
come
ending.
kill
That was,
you?
That was the
Does
first
it
ending.
doesn't every character in Halloween Kills at some point say I'm going to kill you, Michael? It's like literally every one of them
No,
thinks
they
it's
said,
their job.
I'm going to
This
kill
was
the evil. It
always
must
the
die.
plan.
Yeah.
Always the plan.
That also the well, you don't get it because Michael looked into Corey's eyes, and that's why Corey is the whatever. You know how many people's eyes Michael's looked into? You know how much evil there, like how many serial killers should be in Haddonfield? That's the other thing too. You experience trauma, like a fuck ton of trauma. She has PTSD in 2018. She has it's so much so that she's got like trap doors and booby traps. Her kitchen counter moves to whatever, like have a basement with a jail cell or whatever the shit in it. She's that traumatized, and then things get worse. Her daughter gets murdered, and then I'm just gonna write a book. I'm gonna write a book. Everything's all right. I'm gonna show my tits to fear, or whatever that line was.
Show grief your tits.
Yeah. And they just pissed all over the potential of the Allison character. Like it seemed like they were painting her to be the future. Like right down to the shot for shot replication of her at school to Halloween 78. And no, she just has a bad choice of men.
So in short, they had no plan.
Yeah. The Halloween Ends has a couple of neat ideas, but when you consider that 18 and Kills, like they have a lot of little Easter eggs, like the Umbrella Man who ends up being the Danny DeVito guy whose brain turns into cherry pie. Like it, like if you watch 18 and Kills together, it's a rewarding experience, and then Ends is just like this fucking brick wall that just does not feel like it's at all the same town, let alone universe. And the radio station thing, I don't know, was that like a tribute to Rob Zombie? Like that felt like a Rob Zombie thing, the whole 94.9 whatever, or all right, I guess
FM with the guy, the host that's like straight out of a blaxploitation movie.
yeah, and he knows everything about the town.
Old school, like kind of cadence to the FM radio, like
yeah.
all right, everybody. Yeah, I know what you mean. This comparison, I don't know about directly comparing it to Last Jedi, but the Star Wars sequel trilogy and this trilogy, I've heard a lot of comparisons.
Rise of
where
Skywalker, I'd probably say.
Yeah, where they clearly didn't have much of a plan. All right, moving on to Halloween Kills. This one, CP, trying to bring that one up to the top. I was the least forgiving on it. Brian right there above me. Sean somewhere in the middle. To me, like I was never the biggest fan of Halloween 2018, but to me, Halloween Kills, it just has kills. Has some really good kills. Michael looks awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
We're in agreement. It's great.
Yeah. Everything else in the movie, character-wise, dialogue especially, I think is worse every time I watch it. Like every line in the movie is like they're on a Shakespearean play. And trying to convince everybody is trying to convince, like, Michael is this evil force that will not be stopped. Like everything's like a trailer line. And even just Laurie Strode and
Tommy.
What's the dude from Remember the Titans? What's the actor's name?
Patton.
Oh,
yes, William Patton. So you get those two characters, even them just in the hospital, and they're back and forth with each other.
Insufferable.
It needs to die. Like it's just like, dude, nobody fucking talks that way. And I thought that the first time that I watched it, but every time I rewatch it, I'm like, this is a horribly written script.
Yeah.
And there's not much else I could say about it. I mean, a lot of awesome kills. Everything else, it doesn't move the plot forward at all. He just kills through the town, and they make the giant mistake that kind of screws, if it was a part of the plan the whole time, your kills chapter kind of screws up what you were doing and ends, because you make Michael so overpowered in this movie, so unstoppable, to where he gets beaten down by an entire group of people, stands up like it wasn't shit, and kills all of them in seconds, to immediately follow it up with Halloween Ends, to where he's weak in the sewer. It's not the same dude, I'm sorry. So that's my thoughts on kills.
But that's why there's going to be another Halloween film, because it wasn't the same dude.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good thinking there.
CP, you had it the highest. I know it's the Friday the 13th of Halloween films.
Yeah, which is
any more explanation than that?
Which is why I enjoyed it. So the version I saw connected to 2018 very, very well, right down to matching shots. They were a bit more gruesome with they show the teenagers who die at the park who are wearing the Halloween 3 costumes, which makes more sense of why the adults get killed. And of course, the ending is a hell of a lot more badass, or at least what I've seen of it. And again, it matched. They had this theme of closing and opening the movies with that shot of a hand with a knife, and that was the final shot on Halloween Kills. But the death of Karen was way more fucked up in theory.
So did you put the version that you saw at 9,
yes,
or the version that the rest of the world
yes,
got? Okay.
Yeah, my version's 9. Whatever everybody else got is considerably lower, because that, like, the regular, excuse me, the wide release doesn't even have Laurie talking on the phone to Michael, does it? At the end,
he kills Karen, and then it zooms in on his face and ends.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, it'd be way lower, like considerably lower.
And it should be lower, bitch, because nobody can watch that version.
Dude, instead of, like, if you've watched the extended cut, instead of the phone ringing, Karen calls Laurie, and Michael interrupts the phone call and starts killing her, and Laurie's just there listening to her daughter get murdered. And then they do an homage to 78 where Michael Myers picks up the cell phone and you could hear him breathing into the phone, and Laurie says, "Michael, I'm going to come kill you." And that was the
and then she makes
original
pie.
ending.
Then she writes a book. Yeah.
Kill you in 6 years.
Forget it. I got a book to write.
Sean,
Carnage Candy.
there you go.
That's about it. I mean, all the and I like the idea of the town mobilizing.
210,
It's
Zach.
done better in 4, but that's it. I mean, I don't. Every argument about how dumb people are, repeating stupid lines. You're right. He's overpowered. You're right. Carnage.
Brian, what I said, basically.
2.25 hours, guys.
Okay.
2 hours 10 minutes, Zach. Sorry. Somebody asked what the original.
All right, moving on. We'll try to power through the next 5 or 6 so we can get to the upper echelon, because I do have some things at the end that I'd like us all to be here for. Halloween 2, from 1981, I believe. CP had that one pretty high too. Again, it's like a Friday the 13th movie, so I get it. 22 for me. Wow, I didn't realize I had it the lowest. I actually like that one. And then Brian and Sean there. Halloween 2 to me is the most stylistically, visually, the most like the first film, and I like that. You can watch them back to back as kind of one thing, and they work fairly well. A lot of really good kills in this one. To me, this is the more successful version of Halloween Kills. Not a whole lot of story, not a lot of characters, just a lot of kills, but I like this one better. Enough said. Brian?
Yeah, it's one that I loved as a teenager when I could watch 1 and 2 back to back as one film, and it just I didn't see any real difference. It was just a continuation of the story, and it fit in really well. But then you watch it as an adult, and you're like, yeah, this really is just kills, and there's nothing else to it. The stuff they shoehorn in about them being brother and sister just doesn't work at all for me.
Not even John Carpenter likes that storyline.
No.
So I've never liked it.
And so it's just like that's the one thing that the sequel adds to the mythology, and all it does is diminish Michael's threat. It diminishes the first film. So yeah, it just kills. That's all you've got.
When Laurie is drugged and in bed 80% of the movie, so your lead is doing nothing, unaware that the movie is taking place. Yeah. That's not the best stuff, but there's some fun kills.
Kind of Halloween Kills all over again. Yeah.
Okay. Number 13.
We got Tommy getting a group together, having fun.
There you go.
Open mic night. I'm not going to do my bird whistle. I'm going to tell you a terrible story about this town. Sorry, go ahead.
But we got Bud in this one. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. We got 17, 16, 17, and CP the most big fan of this one.
Bunch of homophobic assholes.
This film is woke.
They swapped the genders and everything. Yeah. I've gotten more forgiving on this movie thanks to my youngest daughter. I started. She's gotten a little bit of that early horror fandom that I had when I was a kid, and so we started with Scream, and then we went into Freddy, and this is the one that she likes the most. So I've rewatched it with her at least 2 or 3 times in the past 4 months. I like it more now than I ever used to. I still think that it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense in the franchise because they break all the rules. It's a cool scene, but it doesn't
new mythology.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't.
Listen, everybody at the pool party was asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
There's a lot of really strange choices in here. I mean, it's on record that the guy that wrote the movie put a lot of homoerotic subtext in the script and
subtext.
In the script it was
Subtle.
subtext in the script, not so sub in the movie. So yeah, you get all the creative decisions that the director and everybody made, and it put all of that to the forefront unintentionally. And so it does make it for an odd experience within the franchise because it's focusing and doing a lot of visuals that just like the bird exploding and the S&M bar and the coach making everybody shower for punishment and a bunch of really strange things. But it's got some really good practical effects, like Freddy coming out of Jesse's body and the darkest Freddy of the entire franchise, arguably. So
Sky just said that. Yeah,
I've come around on it. It's still not one of my favorites, but it's one that I
pun
would
intended.
Coming out of the closet as a Freddy 2 fan. Okay, enough gay jokes. There you go. Speaking of gay jokes, CP.
Yo. It's a solid dark Freddy, much unlike the 4, 5, 6 or 5, 6 at least, and it's as much as it breaks the rules, it still was like the kills were still creative and again. This story to certain a degree didn't really add up, but to the roller coaster analogy, that's not that big a deal here. But there's a couple of questionable things. But when you find out that it's gay text. The girlfriend character is essentially, I don't know, an extra. Like she's so misused. yeah. I don't know what her character.
There's a way you can interpret the movie to where Freddy is kind of the embodiment of the. You got to think of the era that this came out in. By the way, for anybody that's going to
The
get
closet.
Yes, that's Freddy's kind of like the gay lifestyle trying to come out of him, and the girlfriend is heterosexuality trying to pull him this direction. And there's many scenes where there's that battle, but nonetheless, there's a lot of really
literally
crazy...
a line of dialogue. There's a girl that wants to bang you in the other room, but you want to sleep with me. Like, subtle. I wonder what you're getting at here.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he was topless there too, wasn't he?
Right.
Yeah. He wakes him up like face to face. He's like, "Hey, baby.
Can I sleep with you?"
Yeah. How the fuck did you get in my house?
Subtle.
Strange movie, man. It's
I
strange,
wonder
but
what this
entertaining.
movie's getting at.
Yeah.
Anything to add there, Shawnsy? Before we move on.
I think it's what it watching the documentary Scream Queen. The lead actor did a documentary on his experience with the movie, being a closeted homosexual, was basically outed by being in the film. It gives a whole other interpretation to the film, a different experience watching it. I'd highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good documentary.
It's interesting seeing the male gaze on a male, but it's just so comically done. Like the when he's dancing and
Best
closing
dance
the
sequence
drawer.
in any of these movies. It's just
Yeah.
incredible. It's great.
I mean, you're focusing on an ass, and it's doing the stupidest fucking thing ever.
Take that, Dad. All right, moving on to number 12. What in the world are you doing? Moving on to number 12, we got Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Me and you were correct. Sean came around on it, I believe. I think Sean used to be a lot more down on this movie, and then Brian just pulling a Brian here. Brian, why do you hate happiness? No.
This one has a plot, and it's
what
about consumerism. Shouldn't this be right up your alley or something? It's sci-fi. It's like all the things. And it's got microchips from that rock that's across the pond near where you're at. Isn't it like everything
you
should
know,
be in
down the
love?
block.
That's my understanding of Europe. We're very simple here in Texas.
We got rocks down there. Okay. Well,
Brian's eating crisps.
yeah. Halloween 3 to me, it's a movie that I didn't watch for a long time because everybody used to say how bad it was just because Michael Myers isn't in it. So I never gave it a chance. Finally gave it a chance in 2016 for the first time when I started my channel and loved it. Thought it was great. Thought it was very creative. Thought it was a really good time. Great score. Really fun lead character. Just kind of embodying everything that Tom Atkins is in the 80s. Pretty gnarly kills and a gnarly concept there. So I could get if it's a little bit too out there for some people because it's certainly a movie that goes for some pretty wild stuff. But I have a blast with it. It's an October must watch for me.
Yeah, and you consider the time it was released. You know, just a plot to. First of all, it's like Sean said, it's the consumerism, and then they're gonna kill all the kids. This was 83, 2.
I think it just turned 40, so 2.
Yeah, so yeah, killing kids back then was really that's a no-no, and to watch
the
that
80s were so puritanical or whatever. That's ridiculous what you couldn't do back then.
gay subtext, you can't murder kids. Like, come on, what the fuck, man? Wake up. And yeah, just to watch that kid with the first pumpkin head melting spider roaches, that shit was gnarly, and it felt like a Cronenberg-esque movie. And yeah, Tom Atkins for some reason, man, he likes to smash, and apparently the women back then, they're downtown Julie Brown, even if they're half his age.
The 80s.
Yeah. Did you used to be a little bit more down on this one, Sean, or am I remembering things wrong?
Yeah, that's true. Very much a situation of I hadn't watched most of the Halloween sequels until whenever I did my first ranking a few years back. So you're watching through it like, yeah, Michael Myers. What is this? Microchips from Stonehenge that melt kids' heads? This is ridiculous. And so then rewatching it a little bit more of like knowing what to expect and being like, yeah, this thing's so bonkers. It's so crazy. Yeah, that's pretty fun. I love that this thing exists now.
All right, we got a fun fact here.
bollocks.
Halloween 3 turns 40 and Resurrection turns 20. It is not. Moving on to one that I think will perk Brian up a bit. We got Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and CP was going for the low max in this one, 19. Me and Sean there in the middle at 9 and 10, and Brian had it the highest at 6. Brian, why is this one of the best in the franchise?
Because it's actually about something. Plain
So
and
was
simple.
Halloween 3. It was about consumerism.
I'll say this about New Nightmare. I think it's one of the best written movies, not only in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but in this whole list. Really creative idea. A million people have said it. It's just kind of Wes Craven stretching his legs for what became Scream. I think it's a really good, solid, well-written movie. But it's not one that I rewatch very often. That's the only reason why it's not higher on my list, because when I'm in the mood for a Freddy movie, this isn't exactly a Freddy movie. It's a movie about Hollywood and the filmmaking process and this demon that kind of takes on the embodiment of Freddy. One of the coolest designs of Freddy, but could have used a few more kills too. You had 2 kills in it. One of them's redundant of part 5, the Dan kill. The other one is purposefully homaging the ceiling kill of Tina. So, very good movie, just not one that's the most rewatchable for me. CP, not a fan.
Yeah, no, not a fan. Just Wes Craven warming himself up for Scream with a lot of meta stuff, and some of the situations that they got themselves in felt a little much for me, like crossing a highway. That was a little out there, but yeah, no, I don't hate it. I just don't love it. It just feels like I said, Wes Craven was warming himself up for Scream, and I'd rather watch Scream.
Sean, anything
Is
to add?
all.
No, not really. Just a clever idea. An interesting way to do something different with the Friday cast. Nightmare on Elm Street cast.
Get it right, Sean.
But like you said, not one that I rewatch. The only times I've watched it are when I've done the rankings these 2 times. And it's like, oh, that's a neat movie. I just don't know when I would just be like, I'm just going to put that on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame too, because the Freddy is probably the best looking. Like, it's probably his look is probably the best thing about that movie, which
It's a very cool design for sure.
for me is a shame.
All right, moving on to number 10. We have Halloween 2018. Me and CP got it at 15. Brian at
3.4.
9. Sean at 3.
Whoa,
Yeah, way up there.
whoa.
I think this is one of the
Start
movies that
defending
dropped
stuff.
the most from the 2018 list for a couple of us. It's a movie. It's okay. I don't think that the trilogy necessarily helps it or hurts it in retrospect. It's got some. It's one of the best directed movies as far as camera work, lighting, all that kind of stuff. A really good score. I love Michael Myers. James G. Courtney is probably my favorite Myers. And The Mask is my favorite from this movie. I don't think that the characters or the dialogue is that great. And I kind of felt like, now that we have the other 2 films, it's easier.
Don't you flipping dare.
Oh, you could do it to us?
Stop it. Arsehole.
I'm sorry. I thought we were opening bags into microphones.
Anyway, it's fine. It's not one of my favorites. Not one of my favorites. So, Sean, you got it at 3.
Yeah, I just love the aesthetic of it. Much you said, kind of the direction, the vibe that it gives off, and its ability to build tension in individual sequences. One of the things I love is when we get to see a character over an extended period of time and what they're like in different phases of life. So the idea of seeing a 60-year-old Laurie Strode and learning about how, trauma of her youth kind of defined her. The exact thing that you didn't think worked, that's what I did like about it. And then you just kind of get the big final showdown, and you get a victory where they trap him and defeat him. course, they undid that. But I just bought into what they were trying to do with the movie of creating this big showdown, a more brutal Michael, all that stuff.
Brian, did this movie really jump much or go up or down much for you on your list? Do you remember?
No, really. It's around about the same-ish. It would be an awesome movie, I think, if they'd have set the Sartain twist up better, so it doesn't just come out of nowhere. I think it shouldn't have been there as a twist. It should have been that we know, or we get inklings into what he's doing right from the start. So it doesn't just feel weird and come out of nowhere. And
Take out all the humor.
yeah. Get rid of some of that awful humour stuff, and
Tone
don't
Laurie Strode down
don't
about
have
8 miles.
don't have Laurie Strode be so out there with it. H2O got that right. Where we find her in her life at that point, given what she went through, and the thing is, H2O still acknowledged Halloween 2. This film doesn't. So it's like you don't even have the horror of Michael Myers specifically singling her out. You know, it was that she got attacked in the home, and that's it. It was random. He was gone. That's that. They got rid of Halloween 2. As far as they're concerned, Halloween 2 doesn't exist. So the very kind of specific singling her out, coming after her no matter where she is, that's gone. So there's even less reason for her to be this way in this iteration than there was in H2O. If she'd have been this way in H2O, I'd buy it more. But she wasn't even this way in H2O, and yet I believed her character a lot more in that film. It was just, it was ridiculous the way they made her so traumatized by this incident. People are attacked every day in the world. You know, I've seen assaults on YouTube that are more vicious than what she goes through at the end of Halloween. They don't then... They don't spend the rest of their days hiding out in a cabin with traps everywhere. It's ridiculous. It's so over the top. Dial that down and this would be an awesome movie. But the first time I saw it, I was just like, no, I ain't buying where Laurie Strode's at all in this movie. But whatever, she's there. What are they going to do with it?
Oddly enough, I could argue, I can understand and argue both sides of the coin. But as somebody who has mild agoraphobia and trauma, I understood quite a bit of what they were doing with Laurie's character. But you know, I don't practice shooting in a backyard or anything like that.
Move to Texas and you can start right up. That's how we roll. I'm packing heat everywhere I go.
Yeah, well, the thing that Brian brought up, that like the fact that you take Halloween 2 out of it, that is what trauma is. Like you have this a lack of common sense with things, and Laurie, I really wish they had gone further with it and like made it seem like she was just, because she made it seem like, you know, Michael was targeting her, but you know, he was killing people in the neighborhood. Like you were a teenager, you were in the way. What the fuck? Get over yourself.
Yeah.
And
that argument works if you keep Halloween 2 in the equation. But they
yeah,
said
yeah, for her,
yeah.
Like I said, I can certainly understand, and money.
All right, we got Jason is to Michael Myers what Deadpool is to Deathstroke. And you have, do you guys think they could make more Halloween movies set in 1978, like Halloween Kills early on? It would explain why Laurie is so traumatized in 2018. I honestly, I don't want any more Laurie. I don't know what the idea is going to be whenever they do decide to go back to Halloween, but for the love of God, we've had, what, like 9 of these movies, maybe even 10 that are focused on Laurie and Michael. there's nothing else they can do with that storyline. I mean, they ran out of steam by the end of this trilogy with that storyline. So no, I would love to see more Halloween set in 1978, just because I thought that flashback sequence in Kills was awesome. But I don't need Laurie to be the focus.
They waste Allison in literally every single of these new sequel movies because they make it seem like she's the heir apparent in 18, but then Karen ends up being the one who finally decides, oh, I'm gonna shoot guns too, and the granddaughter's just there. Hey, my dad put peanut butter in his penis and now he's dead.
Gotta love it. Number 9, moving on to some fun for, oh my lord, Freddy vs. Jason. I had it the highest at 7, got 12 and 11 there with the turds in the middle, and Sean was closer to agreeing with me. This is one of the best theater experiences I ever had in my life. I was 13 when this movie came out, and when I tell you that, I remember like it was yesterday. I was actually in my language arts class in 7th grade, and I used to sneak off to the computer under, we'll call it a lie. I would lie and say I need to look something up, and I would actually be like surfing, looking for movie shit. And I remember just randomly one day, back when we used to have movie websites, I just typed in FreddyVSJason.com because I had my whole life. My dad's like, hey, they're going to make a Freddy vs. Jason. I actually rented Jason Goes to Hell once just to watch the ending, and then I returned it.
My 5 seconds are done. Thank
exactly.
you.
So I typed in randomly FreddyVSJason.com. It just popped into my head, and all of a sudden this website came up, and there was stills, and there was an official website, and there was a trailer, and I was like, and this is back in the dial-up days where you have to click play on the trailer, then click pause and let the little bar move like every 5 minutes so you can watch 30 seconds of it.
Oh.
And dude, I'm telling you, I watched that trailer back and forth probably 15 times because I didn't believe it was real. I was like, this looks legit, but this can't be real. And I spent from that moment until the theater doing all of the insufferable things that I can't stand that people do on the internet now about movies, where they look into theories and they try to figure out the script and what's going to happen before they see the movie.
Look.
Exactly. I was that kid in 2003 because I was like, I need to know what this movie's about. I need to know what's going on here. And when I finally saw it in theaters, packed house full of Freddy and Friday fans, it was an absolute blast. I think most of the things that you can hail at this movie as criticisms, you could pretty much say to slashers in general. It's a slasher movie where the two guys are fighting each other. How good do you expect it to be? And I think that the way narratively that they are able to get them together is actually pretty damn good. Characters are entertaining, really good kills. It doesn't even bother me that Jason takes most of the glory away. Freddy gets like 1 kill in the movie. And is it over the top when they start fighting? Yes, but did you not want it to be? You know, I always have a blast with it. And I don't care if Kane Hodder's not Jason. That's not a complaint for me.
Yeah, that's a plus in my category.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of an action movie to me. It's not so much I mean, the scares aren't really present, but
it's a thrill ride. It's a ride.
It's a very expensive fan film, and it's not a bad thing. Cool. We're gonna see them fight it out, and of course, neither can
Freddy outside of 3 too. I'll say that.
All right, yeah, that's fair. I liked the pseudo flashback of seeing Jason get bullied. Like that was the one thing I was like, see that? What, Mike? That's really badass. Ronnie, you fucking doing a Jason flashback, and the look on Freddy's face when he realizes he's in the real world and Jason flips the table, like that scene is pretty fucking cool. Like,
and then just goes right into WWF movies.
Yeah, just like throwing him through windows and shit. Like it's just fan service, like up to 11. You know, it's fun. It's fun.
I have a great.
It's
time
potato chips. It's a lot of potato chips.
It's delicious potato chips.
I mean, and that's what it's supposed to be. Like, as soon as you go, we're going to do Freddy vs. Jason, you're taking 2 wildly different mythologies and just, you're mashing your toys together. That's what you're doing, and I think it does a fun job of that. Another one, I saw it opening weekend, and that's a fun experience right there. Fun memory right there. Just an obnoxious crowd of people that they just want to see their toys smash into each other. And
It was
what
Endgame
delivers.
before Endgame happened.
Right. It's probably a little bit better than Endgame. I think we can all agree.
So much so that Fox said, "Hey, wait a minute, we've got some properties here we can throw against each other."
Ryan, anything to add?
No, it's just fun. It takes all the ridiculousness of both franchises and it makes a film that seems to understand those franchises. Yeah, it's fun. Straight down the line, 3-star, solid film, enjoyable to watch.
There you go. Moving on to number 8, we've got Halloween Water, 20 years later. I was there in the middle with, let's see, well, no, we're all a little bit spread apart on that one. Brian had it the highest, Sean at 7, I had at 10, and CP at 14. I used to be a little bit higher on this movie. This was my third favorite Halloween film for a while there. It got bumped down one spot, I believe, just because when I watched it this most recent time, I was like, oh, it does take quite a while to really get going, doesn't it? But what I love about this movie is that, to me, it's the best, most interesting version of Laurie Strode. I like where we find her here, where she's traumatized, but she has moved on. And you see more so her effect on her son than anything else, to where she's so overbearing, protective, and paranoid that she's like destroying his life a little bit. So I think it's a really interesting version of her. I think that the third act is awesome. I think it's the best ending of any of the movies in this franchise, arguably. And I have fun with all the characters, every single one of them. Josh Hartnett and Michelle Williams and all of them. I think they're all a really good cast. And I don't think the Myers is as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. He's not the best, but I don't think he's the train wreck that a lot of people claim that he is. The masks are, but which of the 4 are we talking about, right? So, Brian, you had it the highest, number 4.
Yeah, if this had the cinematography and the production design that David Gordon Green's films have, it would probably be, well, it'd certainly be, at least be my number 2, but maybe even my number 1. Because I think the thing that lets it down is that Michael Myers does look a bit, and the cinematography is a bit
You
bland.
see his eyes the whole movie.
It's just a bit bland. But as far as story and everything goes, and that running time, it's like 80 minutes long in it. It's short, sweet, it gets in, it gets out, it does what it needs to do. There's no real padding. I didn't think that Laurie Strode, I didn't hold Laurie Strode in high regard as far as horror, icon final girls went. I was just like, she was just some chick who like, hello. In the first film, Kiwi. Who's the dog? Is that Bluey? Is that Bluey? Bluey! Hey! Love Bluey.
One of them's orange.
Yeah, that's the sister.
Bluey and Orangey?
No, what's the name now?
Bingo is big.
Bingo. No, Bingo's the mum in it.
Oh. I was just throwing out a name. My kids have all the toys too. And I'm like, oh, it's Blue. And they're like, that one's not blue, you dummy. Like, oh, wow, my kids are disrespectful.
Yeah. So, what was I on? Yeah, I never held her in that high regard until this film. I felt like this film is the one that really allowed her to be worthy of having that title of being one of the great final girls, because she actually kicks ass in this one. She actually has a backstory, and it feels a bit more loaded, whereas just on the strength of the first 2 movies, in the first one she just gets attacked in a house right near the end of the film, essentially. And in the second one, like Sean said before, she spends most of it in a hospital bed. I'm like, well, this is the great Laurie Strode that everyone bangs on about. You look at Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street. She's in it all the way through. She's fighting all the way through.
Sidney Prescott.
Sidney Prescott. Sidney Prescott's my favourite when it comes to final girls. So it's just like when everyone always says, no, Laurie is the goat. I'm like, no, Certainly not until H2O at any rate. So yeah, I just wish it had better cinematography and Michael Myers looked a bit more imposing. If you get that, this would be number 2 for me probably.
Anything to add, guys?
It's lighter fare version of Halloween 2018. This is the closest thing the Halloween franchise has to a cash grab, because you could see all of the Scream's doing well. Throw something together and use some of their music cues on top of it. And that's them just throwing shit together. Imagine if they took some time with it, and it feels dated, but it's still it's like an easier. It's easier to go down than Halloween 2018, and the traumatic version of Laurie is a little bit more mainstream accessible.
If you look at Halloween 2018, they did supposedly take time with that one, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, I know some people criticize it for being the screamified Halloween movie, but as someone that loves that era of horror films, those are my formative years of when I started.
Like I said, it wasn't a cash grab. I mean, they were putting real effort in.
Yes.
It was a joke.
But anyway, I didn't know what to do with that. But Sean likes it. And, there's not a sequel.
Sean
to
approves.
It.
There
Sean
you go.
Chandler
It
does
ends
not
there.
think there's a sequel. There's no resurrection.
It ends there. That is my preferred timeline. I did a ranking of the timelines, and my number 1 was Halloween 1, Halloween 2, H2O. Number 7, Halloween 4, the one that I think improved the most for me. I had it at 8, CP at 10. I think it improved quite a bit for him too.
Yes, it did.
Brian at number 3, Sean
too.
at number. Oh, okay, cool. Everybody but Brian warming up to it. So yeah, Halloween 4 was a movie I did not like when I first watched it. 2016 was the first time that I watched about 4 of these movies. I skipped the whole Thorn trilogy growing up. And when I watched 4, I just couldn't get over the mask. I was like, that might be fucking doofy as hell. Like, how am I supposed to be scared by this guy? He's got hockey pads. I'm not wearing
hockey pads.
He's wearing hockey pads. As soon as I did it, my brain's like, no, you just set him up. And look, if you make Myers similar to H2O, if you make Myers look better, this movie might go up like a whole, at least half a star. But over time, the more that I've watched it and kind of just accepted the horrible mask, it's got a lot going for it. It kind of goes back to basics, goes back to a bit of the feel of the first film and the approach of it. Jamie Lloyd's a really good character to change focus to, because she's a kid. You're more invested in her peril throughout the movie because she is a little girl. Rachel, really good counterpart with her, great character. But I like what Michael kind of systematically takes down the town in this one. It's the only movie where it feels like he's got a plan. He goes and he takes out the power, and then he takes out the police force, and then he goes for Jamie after that. And so it's really unique in that regard. The whole town rising up against Michael. First of all, the sheriff and everybody believes Dr. Loomis. He doesn't have to go through that bullshit that he did in the first 2 movies where I shot him 6 times. Believe me. They're like, oh, he's back. Okay, let's go fuck him up. And I think it's done much better in this one than in Halloween Kills. And it's got a great ending that 5 destroys. I mean, that was another timeline that I love, where you watch the first 2 and then you watch this one, and that's where it ends. The evil transferred and never stops. So I have mostly positive things to say about this one, except for that garbage ass mask.
Yeah, Corey Cunningham or an extension of Jamie Lloyd. I'd like an extension of Jamie Lloyd, please, not Corey Cunningham, as the next thing for Haddonfield. Really good ending.
See, I think they should do a new Halloween film, right? And ignore everything from Halloween 5 onwards and just pick up from Jamie Lloyd being in a hospital.
I don't hate that idea.
Make her the new...
but she's not a mute.
Not a mute, no. Just make her like... Okay, this is our new Myers, but it's Lloyd, and she's a psycho bitch.
Yeah.
Shawnsy?
That would be woke, though.
Well, I'm tired, so wake me up.
Like what you guys said, this one moved up a whole lot for me. Whenever I first watched it, I just kind of had written off that era of Halloween films. They just were very much not on my radar. So it was like, just he's back again, whatever. And then rewatching it was like, oh no, this is actually like the better version of Kills. With the town is different. The town remembers, and so then they go after him, and they allow the mob to both kill an innocent person and be a big part of how they're able to stop him. I appreciate that they there's a lot of awful things that come from this, but they also help you kill the killer guy. So I liked all those different things in there.
Awesome.
And the mask.
Moving on to number 6, we've got Jason. Oh no, wait, we got Final Chapter. How the hell did Jason Lives get hired in this? We got 4 for me. Number
motherfucker.
2, number 2 for
me.
And me.
Brian, I love. Did it move down for you at all, Brian? We got number 12, and then Sean at 11. I remembered you liking that one quite a bit. Did it move down for you, Brian?
I don't think so.
No?
Not much. I think it's the first. It's the first Friday the 13th movie that I can say I liked.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first one where I look at it and think it was actually made with some technical
They hired a director.
competency. Yeah. It's got some lighting going on.
Is that a crane shot?
Yeah. So it actually feels like a movie to me rather than just a bunch of mates out in the woods filming crap and hoping it sticks. So yeah, I'd start with this one. If I was ever going to watch Friday the 13th movies again, I'd start with this one. Then I'd go straight to 6. I'd throw on Jason Goes to Hell because it's fun, and then I'd go straight to the remake. Other than that, that's pretty much all I care about.
This time when I ranked it, this actually ended up being my number 1 Friday film. I just barely nosed out the remake for me, which has been my number 1 for quite a few years. When I think of Friday the 13th, like classic Friday the 13th, this one to me is by a landslide the best one. Ted White, I think, is awesome. The way that they light Jason and shoot Jason is like darker and meaner in this one.
Joseph Zito really didn't fuck around on this.
Yeah,
one.
like he's actually kind of creepy and scary. Like even some of the shots where you just see the shadows and the lightning whenever he's killing people, like he's got an imposing kind of a flavor to him in this one. All of the characters I think are the most fun of all the Friday the 13th movies. You got Corey Feldman in here as a really good kind of focal point. Some of the best kills in the entire franchise. I mean, Tom Savini was not fucking around when he came back. So, yeah, when I think of Friday the 13th, I usually think of the remake or this one. And as of today, which it might shift, this is the one that I prefer. And if I was going to set somebody up with like a list of, what are some classic slasher movies that I should check out, this is one that I would put on that list.
Yeah, you used the shot in the intro, like when he's
in the shadow, and then he just kind of goes for it.
And Trish is just kind of like, what the fuck do I do? I'm out the window, fuck it. Like that was a really, really, really intense little moment there. There's so much believability about this. The teenagers have conversations about things that teenagers would have conversations about, like the dead fuck thing. Like that is, that's what fucking 16-year-olds are thinking about. It's just sex and sex and oh shit, I blew my chance to get a blowjob. That's it. And then Corey Feldman did an absolutely perfect job of capturing what it's like to be a 10-year-old and seeing your neighbor's topless.
Oh yeah.
Like
I love that scene because I was just like, oh, that's exactly what I would have done.
Dude, like, oh my God. Exactly. Like, I don't know why I'm excited.
Well, the dad don't know nothing about this. Really quick, cool stroke. Not enough people talk about Freddy vs. Jason and Bride of Chucky's score. Licensed soundtracks were also bangers. Yeah, Ronnie, you did a great job with music, both of his movies. Special features of FVJ with the Freddy and Jason press conference. I did see that back when they aired it, actually, when they were doing the little press conference thing and the weigh-ins
in Vegas. Yeah,
they leaned into it. They had fun with that one. There was one more, I believe. I hope when Halloween comes back, we get a good retelling. No more legacy sequels connected to 78. Sorry, Danielle, I want something fresh. Yeah, if we're gonna do a retelling, I would rather them pick up from 4, but I would hope that there's a unique idea out there. Sean, any thoughts on the final chapter? Are we moving on?
It's good, but it's I'm not as I don't get the same feelings out of it that you guys seem to. It's like, okay, yeah, another one of these.
Okay.
It's like, oh, what? Look, we got Crispin Glover and he's dancing. That's awesome. Oh, look, it's that guy that's in Goonies. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's all.
Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. We got CP dragging this one to the finish line at number 1. Me and Brian right there neck and neck. Sean at number 6. This is a movie that I have fun with. It's one of the Jason movies that I think is more casually enjoyable. The ones that kind of know what movie they are and go for the fun, goofier side. This is the best of those. But it also, for some reason, it feels, I don't want to say neutered, but like the kills aren't as gory. They're kind of more fun kills, goofy kills, and no nudity whatsoever. So it's got this really interesting tone to it, to where it's a lot of people's favorite, but it also kind of abandons a lot of the things that Friday the 13th on paper is kind of known for.
Same deal as Part 7. The triple decapitation was supposed to be really, really gnarly, and
They talk about that on the special features.
and for are you sponsored? Are we doing a Peter Brack sponsored video? For everything that I was saying about Freddy's Dead, Jason Lives is
Sean, can you please hurry up with that rapper? Just...
Brian's got a thing.
Jason Lives, there's comedy elements to it, inspired Scream. But Jason Voorhees is still respected. A lot of homages to Frankenstein and other horror Easter eggs just trickled all over the place. Yeah, really, really, really good soundtrack. It's certainly nostalgia plays heavy into this, but I like the fact that there's no nudity. I like the fact that I can watch it and not feel like, if my new girlfriend's parents walk in, I'm like, shit. I was watching Friends and the channel changed. What happened?
See, I'm the opposite. I see the Darcy DeMoss scene and I'm like, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
Not buying it.
The best.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, I mean, you guys have anything else to add?
I mean, I think even beyond just having a more playful fun and embracing what the franchise really is, it also has a lead character that knows that they're in the movie.
Yeah.
That he's aware Jason is loose. Jason's trying to get somewhere, so there's a ticking clock. And so you have a story with actual momentum as opposed to a bunch of people clueless Jason's out there and slowly getting killed. That, to me, is what kind of elevated this one for me.
Awesome.
And a final boy. He's a final boy.
This was the first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw as well.
Well, that set up your expectations pretty bad.
Yeah.
Check out the rest of these. Pretty good.
Really did. The friend at high school said, "Have you ever seen a Friday the 13th film?" I was like, "No, we got to watch this one." So we watched that. I was like, I always thought, one day I'm going to check out the rest of them because that was pretty awesome. It's pretty badass. Oh, well.
So beloved that there's like 5 fan films that have spewed off of that storyline.
Can't wait. Number 4, Friday the 13th remake, and it warms my heart that it made it this high. I got it at 6, Brian at 5, Sean at 4, and CP really came around on this one because I remember that used to be my my little ace in the hole. Anytime you'd start your shit about 1980, I'm like, oh, but you hate the remake, huh? Like, so I'm going to start with CP because I don't remember where it was ranked previously, but I know it's significantly higher than what it was.
I think it was like 14 or 13.
It's quite late then.
Yeah. I think Halloween Kills kind of snapped me out of it because Halloween Kills, it felt like this is what Jason would be if they were to make a Jason movie now. And then I rewatched 2009 and I'm like, This is what Jason would be if if they made it 10 years ago. The characters are just atrocious. After
What?
the
Trent. You guys all like reminds me of myself.
Stupendous.
The thing is, Trent is so great because he's intentionally obnoxious. They are clearly going for that.
Well, they
Like,
lean into it at every chance.
Big
I mean, even when you get
time,
the sex
big
scene,
time.
he says the most douchebag stuff you
Yeah.
could possibly say to a
Yeah.
chick that's riding you. It's
It
hilarious.
it becomes funny. You're watching it and you're like, you know what?
And then he finally
I love
sees
this
Jason
guy.
and he lets out the bitchiest
that scream, yeah.
Yeah, it's like just keep
great.
being you, Trent. Keep being you. I mean, aside from the fact that this guy crosses over 2 franchises as well, it's just immense.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dude, bro. I think the opening, the prologue, everything before the title screen is perhaps the strongest sequence of Friday the 13th, period. Derek Mears is menacing as
Freight
Jason.
train.
Yeah.
Just that opening sequence when he's running at her and you're just like, she ain't got no chance.
Yeah.
She's dead.
Yeah.
And
Jason doesn't run.
I also
He's supposed to walk towards him slowly, menacingly.
and I also think like I like Cody said before, you take the story from like the first 3 films. This one covers it all. It's
With Jared Padalecki kind of playing the dude from
yeah,
Ford.
yeah, and it's like I have a reason to root for this guy. I want him to find his sister.
Yeah,
I
he
want
has
him
an
to save his
objective.
sister. Yeah. There's a reason to follow this dude. Whereas in every other Friday the 13th movie, most of them, except for 6, there's no reason to root for any of them. They're just there to be killed.
And 4, they're trying to have sex.
That's true.
So it's just like,
Give him a shit.
yeah, I don't get people I don't get Friday the 13th fans who criticize this movie, and the criticisms they throw at it are like, dude, that's every Friday the 13th movie, except this one actually does more with that stuff.
You know what's awesome too? Because I've said that to somebody before that's a huge Friday the 13th fan. I'm like, dude, you just described every other film in this franchise. And then he stopped for a second. And he goes, well, they should have learned by then. They should have learned by 2009 not to do the same thing. And I'm like, are you...
It's like,
I love it.
You want to
Jason
hate
doesn't
this
run.
movie.
Yeah, he kind of does. There's so much nudity in this movie. What the fuck do you go to this franchise for? Number 2, or the third one I always get. Makes no sense that he would keep that girl around. She looks like his mother. Have you seen part 2? Have you seen the other ones where his mom is his one like mental weakness? Makes perfect sense to me. What else you got?
Yeah.
The characters are terribly written.
I think
Which one are they not?
I think if you're a genuine fan of this franchise, you would look at the remake and think, "Whoa, it's condensed so much. It's just everything.
Right.
It's condensed everything from all the films, all the good bits, the things we like, and it's put them in one movie, updated, more brutal, and it's just I don't understand any Friday the 13th fan not enjoying this movie. I really don't. It boggles my brain that any Friday the 13th fan would turn against it. It's easily the best in the franchise for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've never understood. Like, I could get just a regular old Joe saying it's not a very good movie. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. There's definitely some
Yeah.
things they could do better there. It's not winning any awards, but Friday the 13th diehards,
Yeah.
I've always gotten that. I'm like, but why? Why this one of all of them?
Yeah.
What's your favorite? That one? What the fuck? Like, and you always see those lists where it's like the bottom 2
Yeah.
of the ranking, and I'm like, wait a minute, come on now. So yeah, I don't know.
Just
I really
80s
have
purists that are just
Yes.
it's like
I
stuck
have
in the nostalgia of their childhood.
Yeah. Big
Yeah.
time.
I have a really good time with this one. The only thing that honestly I've ever had an issue with is that they don't really do enough to explain why Jason is walking around while his mother gets killed in the opening, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me every time I watch it. And then at the very end of the movie, the last gotcha scare where he comes out of the lake is extremely lazy. Other than that, I love the movie. I think it's a damn good time. It's got the only kill in the entire franchise that you feel emotion for. When they kill Daniel Panabaker, that her name?
Yeah.
When they kill her, you're like, wait a minute, that can't happen. No.
Yeah.
And you feel
because
the same
because
thing.
that's the driving force of the movie. It's the driving force is him trying to find her and save her, and then when he doesn't, it's like, oh crap, that's like the hero's journey, but it's not been achieved. So yeah.
Man.
And
tragedy
we
as
visited
a
the
hero.
Red Barn from it, Mr.
Yeah, we
Leach
did.
and I.
We did.
It's
visit the
only
Red
about
Barn.
10 minutes from my house.
You dicks.
All right, moving on to number 3, closing them out here soon. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. This was my favorite. You got Sean and CP agreeing at 5. Brian having it at number 7. When I am in the mood for a Freddy movie, this is the first one that I grab. I think the first film and Dream Warriors are pretty universally thought of as the best of the bunch. For me, this one's just more fun. It still has that dark edge, the first film. It still has the horror side of things. It's got awesome kills, really good one-liners that are still dark and not just silly and stupid from Freddy. Really good practical effects, too. Like the little marionette kill, I think is gnarly as hell. And the Dream Warriors themselves are great characters. And the way they bring Nancy back is a really good. It doesn't end the strongest. The third act has some visual effects and some things that have not aged well for certain, but this has always been my favorite of the franchise. So, Brian, you were the lowest on it.
On Dream Warriors.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just it's solid. I'm just not quite as big on it as everyone else, but it's certainly
It's got
certainly
Dokken, dude.
yeah. It's just yeah, I liked it. For me, the ending never really. It was one of the first horror movies that I saw as a kid, and I did have to have the light on when I went to bed that night because my mum wasn't impressed that my uncle and my dad had let me watch it because I was 4 years old at the time, or 6. Yeah, I would have been 6 years old at the time. So, yeah, it was. But I have very specific memories about that whole, using him as a marionette and cutting it. That really got under my skin as a 6-year-old.
That's my favorite kill in the franchise.
Going back to the film, which I didn't do until like about 4 or 5 years ago when I reviewed them all. It was like a rite of passage to go back to that film, and obviously you watch it as an adult and you're like, it's really not scary anymore. But yeah, so yeah, it definitely made an impact on me as a kid. But I just the ending is a bit anticlimactic for me, but it's solid stuff.
Uncle Sean. Dream Warriors. I did that on purpose. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of takes the mythology and does something very different with it. Where, like I discussed earlier, when you get into 4 and 5, it just feels like, once again, teenagers getting killed at home. This one, it takes it in a new location, takes the idea of dreams and people having power in their dreams, and let's kind of build this whole mythology around that so that they turn into superheroes. You get creative, fun kills in there, but without undercutting the drama, the tension, and the horror to it. There's still a wit and a funness to it as you watch them brutally killed, but not in the way where it's cartoonish. And so just kind of a great way to do a sequel where you build on the mythology without rehashing the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good idea for a sequel to Dream Warriors, instead of just wiping out all the Dream Warriors at the start of 4, is to have Freddy come back, but bring like some other characters with him, like demons from hell that are in the vein of him, so you could kind of open up that world, and then the Dream Warriors have to recruit, and so it becomes more of a
Avengers type movie?
Yeah. Like so Freddy isn't the only threat. It becomes very much a nightmarish hell with all kinds of weird demons and goodness knows what coming at him.
Pizza in the chest.
Yeah.
CP?
Yeah, this to me always felt like the spiritual sequel to 1, like with no disrespect to 2. It just feels like the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's 1, but bigger, and now we're all going to team up. Was this the first one to introduce Hypnosil?
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of dug that where they had a fight against the doctors. Right. So, like it was.
Fuck you. Go to sleep.
Yeah, there was certainly a bit of a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest homage element to it, and it was neat that they had multiple things that they were battling on top of their own personal issues, and it was cute that their issues were turned into their strengths in their dreams because they figured out a way to dream.
There you go.
Achieve your dreams.
Anything's possible. Coming in at number 2 is the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I had it at 2. Brian had it at 2. Sean had it at 2. So all of us were correct, and CP just screwed it all up.
You can't help it. There's too many Friday the 13th movies I got to put up there.
These next 2 movies especially, I feel like we've all discussed ad nauseum. Nightmare on Elm Street, amazing original film. It has such a perfect horror idea. It's like, how the hell did it take till 1984 for somebody to come up with this? Some really good kills, really good characters, really good direction from Wes Craven. Horror icon birth in Freddy Krueger and in Robert Englund's performance. A lot of really creepy visuals, the body bag getting drug across the school, everything like that. Really the only negative thing I've ever said about this film, and it's a sizable negative, is that they completely fuck up the last 5 minutes. You have that compromised ending between Wes Craven and Rob Shea, to where Bob Shea wanted to have open ending for sequels. Wes Craven did not, and they came up with this compromise where they pull a blow-up doll through the window. It looks horrible. It's aged even worse, and it just kind of ends you on this sour note to where, honestly, if that ending did not exist, you would have a very, very strong argument between number 2 and number 1. But that ending has always kind of defaulted it to be below Halloween for most people. I didn't put it there this year because I'm kind of burnt out on Halloween, but yeah, that's the only negative I've ever had about it. Other than that, I think it's a brilliant horror movie. Brian?
There's also some inconsistencies with it with regards to logic in the ending. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember. So I think, is it something to do with a phone call? Something to do with
a tongue?
No, just in terms of when you look at whether she's asleep or not, and certain things don't make sense. I can't remember it, but I just remember there being a certain hole in the logic of it.
Oh no, that was Johnny Depp's bed, and it just spewed blood. That was the hole.
The funny thing, now that you bring that up, one element that I really, when they ever go back to Nightmare on Elm Street, one element that these movies have always played around with but never really committed to that I love is Freddy killing these kids in a way that makes it look like a suicide, or make it look
yeah.
They do that so well in the first film, like with Tina, it makes it look like a murder. And then you got, Rod, and makes it look like a suicide. And then you get the Johnny Depp's kill, and it's like, oh, what the fuck? That happened. And so, like, every single one of these movies, or a lot of these movies, have kills like that, to where it looks like somebody died of natural causes or some believable non-supernatural reason. And then they just kind of abandon that. I would love a movie to come out and Freddy actually has that as a part of his MO, where he always makes it look, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled, making believe that he wasn't real, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I can't remember what the logic hole was, but I remember there being quite a significant one. Mm-hmm. If you sort that out for me, and then get rid of that stupid scene you were talking about, this would be my number 1. I would put it above Halloween, but I just think it doesn't quite stick the landing, whereas Halloween does.
Yeah.
So
I can agree with that. Uncle Sean?
Just a great concept for a horror franchise of someone kills you in your sleep, so you try and stay awake. Well, you can only do that for so long. You can't escape sleep forever. That's a great setup, a great premise. And then, just get a certain amount of luck in the casting of finding Robert Englund, who becomes this legend, this icon. So just a great idea. with the right execution at the right time. And
CP?
I think the third act maybe gets a little bit Home Alone, but who cares? Who cares? And I like blow up dolls, so that last little bit was my favorite part.
CP?
Who can't relate to being afraid of Kid Diddler in your nightmares? I mean, really, it's just so relatable.
There you go. Moving on. We've got number 1, of course, is Halloween. I tried my best to dethrone it, but I'm just kidding. I had it at number 3, CP at number 3, number 1 for Brian and Sean. I mean, there's nothing else you could say about Halloween. It's a proven classic. It's a timeless classic. There's some credit that needs to be given to movies like Black Christmas and a few others that I think it gets kind of unfairly given to Halloween, but it is still a movie that definitely kicked open the doors for the slashers of the 80s. Great characters, Loomis and everything like that, brilliantly done to where he's all exposition, but it doesn't feel like an exposition dump character that's pointless. He kind of builds the threat of Michael Myers in your head throughout the movie. Nothing else to really say about it. I don't really have any negative. The only negative that I have with it is the buttloads of people that are like, this is the greatest thing that has ever been created on the face of the earth. And I'm like, no. I mean, it's 5 out of 5 for me, but it's not that.
It's a 4-star film for me.
There you go. CP?
This is 5 years and going now that I just cannot stand the fact that people talk about William Shatner so much, but nobody wants to talk about Eyes Without a Face because it's French and I don't want to watch that movie because I don't like to read my movies. True Halloween fans should be talking about Eyes Without a Face the way they do William Shatner, because that was.
But you see, they only had $2, and they walked into this little last-minute hardware store, and they had 2 masks, and the fate of horror was forever changed because they picked a Star Trek mask. You don't get it. You have Eyes Without a Face.
No,
it's Halloween.
Yeah, classic Johnny Carpenter. Fairly simple concept, executed really well. Has just a very creepy aesthetic vibe to it, of just like this stalker. There's something unsettling about these images of you're seeing something very mundane and then this creepy guy watching them. And then I think so much of what just kind of holds it together is this Loomis character that is unhinged and crazy, but something so charismatic is in his own weird way at the same time. And even though the body count's not very large, because of everything he's doing, it just lifts it all up.
There you go.
There's something oddly funny about hearing Sean call him Johnny Carpenter.
Like they're buds from high school.
Hey, old Johnny Carpenter.
Little Johnny Carpenter.
Little Mikey Myers. All right, guys. Well, that is the 33 right there. Again, special thanks to Robert, Alex, and John Connor for making this a much, much, much easier production. I mean, I spent at least 4 hours doing all the things that I did.
John Connor of Terminator fame.
Yes, exactly. That guy. He came back in
be a
time to help me out. Before we close out, John Connor did put together some pretty interesting statistics, so I wanted to share them because they are pretty interesting. And then I have a little video to end out on before Brian passes out in front of all of us. Most agreed. These are the 6 movies that we all agreed on the most. Freddy's Dead only had a split of 1. Halloween 78 split of 2. Nightmare on Elm Street split of 2. Halloween Resurrection split of 3. New Beginning 4. And Friday the 13th, 2009. Movies that we disagreed the most on were 1980 Friday the 13th, a split of 21 between CP and Brian. Halloween 3, a split of 20 between me and Brian. Halloween 2, a split of 18 between me and Sean. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, a split of 18 between me and Brian. And then Halloween Ends, a split of 16 between Brian and Sean.
It's mostly me then.
There's a pattern, isn't there?
My name's spelt wrong there, though. I will say that.
Where is it at? Oh, damn. Yeah, I did the copy paste thing. I tried to fix all the other ones. I got them here lower on the list. See, I fixed that one. All right, changes. Halloween 4 was the biggest change. It was 12 higher for CP, 4 higher for me. 1980 was 9 lower for me. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, 6 higher for CP. Halloween 2018, 6 lower. Friday the 13th, 5 higher. CP had all the big changes. Schizophrenic bastard.
Big time.
Closest to average.
It's all over the place.
Yes!
Sean was the most correct.
Woo!
6 times.
Despite a
he
couple
had
of crazy takes in there,
There you
still
go.
the closest to the average.
There you go. CP was a second. I was the third. Brian was the furthest away.
No, you were
happy
second,
with that.
Cody. If that list is right, you had 5 times correct. You're second.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah,
copied and pasted.
5
it
is
wrong.
more than 3.
I know. Okay. I was just second. Okay, I was second. I win.
We're good at math. We can,
I win.
I will
Like I
say,
said, I copy
I
and
will
paste
say,
some of these.
I'm happy with being the one who has the biggest difference of opinion with everyone, and for those who are always like commenting on Cody's channel saying, "Oh, you just say whatever goes against whatever anybody else thinks," it's like I think those statistics give you the
Oh yeah.
2 fingers to that one. So
Oh yeah. We have 2 more. We got movie savior. So this is the person that pulled the most movies towards the top. Halloween 2 would have been 5 places lower without me, and then
CP
CP
with all
here
them
trying to
bloody
save the whole
Friday-
fucking franchise. Jason
Tosser.
Lives would have been 4 higher or 4 lower. Friday Final Chapter would have been 4 lower. Friday the 13th, 1980 would have been 4 lower if he had been honest. Nightmare on Elm Street 5 would have been 4 lower without Brian. And then we have the movie Slasher, who is the guy that pulled the movies closest to the bottom. Anybody want to vote on who that might be?
Brian.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch would have been 5 higher without Brian. Jason X would have been 5 higher without Brian. 1980 would have been 4 higher without Brian. And me. I think I fucked that one up too.
yeah.
Wes Craven would have been 4 higher without CP. Dream Child 4 higher without me, and Dream Master without old Sean.
Oh, yeah.
Now, on that note, there's one thing that has always been an inside joke for all of us because we've always talked about it every time we do these. Who's going to get the Lomax Award? And for those that have been with us for that long, know what I'm talking about. So I decided to actually give a Lomax Award this year. We always talk about it. And the Lomax Award essentially is for the person that had the most amount of times in the list that they were on an island and just farthest away from everybody else in the group. And it was a lot closer than you would have thought. I basically looked at the list that was given to me, and every single time there was a huge disparity, I tallied it up. And there was actually a 3-way tie at one point until I added up the scores.
From a character and story-driven standpoint, I felt this one was much more intriguing and had me wanting to know where it was going to end up.
Number 12 is going to be the other Halloween 2, the one that pisses everybody off when you don't have it at 33 or 32 or 31. Yeah, I got to way the fuck up here.
Look at a lot of movies lower on this list. Maybe some of them have more artistic merit. Maybe some of them have better ideas in them. But this one just kind of provides the classic Halloween experience.
It's Craven's The New Nightmare, or The New Nightmare, or
Fucking nightmare!
the spiritual prequel to Scream.
And the Lomax goes to...
Suck an egg, you bitch. I'm so tempted to pull my pants down and stick my ass in the camera, to be honest.
Fuck you, asshole.
In every single scene, yeah, of
Yeah,
RoboCop, every single scene, every single scene.
You watch
So the
RoboCop
music in every single scene is played for satirical
You watch
effect, is it?
RoboCop straight.
What, every single scene, every single scene.
Yay.
Sean nearly got it this year. I was like, oh my God, the first one's going to be given to Sean because you guys, it was between CP and all of you all had a two-way tie.
I want to see
That's
the
what I get
evidence
for
for
lying.
that. What's the evidence for this?
Okay, I pulled it up. Well, what ended up giving it to you was Friday 5 because you had...
dick.
There we go. Friday 5. So, or I'm sorry, no, Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Oh, I'm a dick.
So, CP's Lomax moment was New Nightmare. I had Halloween 2 and something else. I should have deleted. I had 2. Sean had Halloween 5 and Friday the 13th Manhattan, and Brian had Halloween Ends and Nightmare on Elm Street 5, where his scores were significantly different than everybody else's. But when you added the differences together, Sean was 15 and Brian was 22. So, so the first inaugural Lomax Award goes to the man himself.
As it should be.
The music was fucking hysterical.
Oh, I spent as much time as we've been streaming working on that Lomax Award thing, so I'm glad it turned out well. I had fun with it. A couple of super chats before we go. I hope if... Oh, wait, no, I already got that one. Sorry. My thing was not scrolling right. Ever thought of adding the Scream movies to the ranking so it'd be 39 on 31? No, we're sticking with 31. 31 is the brand. This was just like a one-off just to kind of celebrate Halloween, you know, completing its trilogy, and we wanted to include Sean because Sean wasn't able to join us for the first one, so it made sense to deviate from the number for this little one-off and just have fun this Halloween. So yeah, we're sticking with 31, and we have talked about Scream. That was on the second one, so you can check that one out. Brian's
which
favorite
I missed
of the
out
horrors,
on, so we can just repeat that one again.
All
there
right,
you go.
Just keep repeating them for me.
36 on 31.
There you go. To this day, when I hear the word stupendous, can't help but think of Friday. Absolutely. I was a couple behind. Didn't realize that. Okay.
There's
now
a
we have
giant fucker.
Can't wait for material to run so low. You have to pad out the 31 by watching crap like Puppet Master.
Ugh.
Me too.
Patience. Patience. So much love to the AutopStream. Thank you for everything you guys do. Well, thank you so much for that donation. That is awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to these gentlemen, especially Brian, for tolerating this this whole shebang. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is going to be it for us. Please, the links for all their channels down below, and go check out all of their respective 33s if you want to see all the in-depth thoughts. And with that being said, unless there's anything specific you guys want to promote.
Bedtime. That's what I want to promote.
There we go.
Kid diddlers.
With all that. On that note, we're out.